Chapter 2051. The blood python lair was filled with the smell of countless blood python beasts. This was a natural treasure land that gave birth to the blood python beasts. A land that could give birth to a race was not ordinary. It was formed by the heavens and earth and was comparable to life planets in the universe. Places like the Heaven's Fate world and the Tranquil Heart world could only be considered special secret realms. But the blood python lair was on another level. The supreme blood python horn. I must find the supreme blood python horn. When the blood python beast king's time is up, they will take the only supreme blood python horn and place it in their lair. It must be here. Those two blood python beast kings' intelligence is not high, but they are good at hiding things. In a dark, damp, and cold lair, an expert with 3 eyes and antlers was floating in the air. His pure white eyes were terrifying. His 9 forked eyes explained the mysteries of the soul. His soul aura was extremely powerful. Heaven's Fate race, Wu Jitian, ranked 13th on the Origin Awakening list. He was the second strongest expert of the Heaven's Fate race, second only to Wu Long, who was ranked 7th. He had a high position in the Heaven's Fate race and was even more famous in the Origin Awakening continent. Compared to Thorn, Extreme Fatal, and the Milky Way's human race, the Heaven's Fate race had the deepest understanding of the Void Turbulence. It could be said that the Void Turbulence was no secret to them. Because the Heaven's Fate race had existed before the Origin Awakening continent, their history was the same as the Void Turbulence. When the other races were still looking for a way out, the experts of the Heaven's Fate race had already entered the 7 Forbidden Lands. Wu Long entered the Meteor Forbidden Lands. Wu Jitian entered the Blood Python lair. The other experts of the Sorcerer race had their own missions and goals. We only have 1 chance in 10 reincarnations. We must find it. We have already drawn more than 90% of the map of the Blood Python lair. The supreme blood python horn must be hidden in the unexplored 10%. Wu Jitian looked around. Different from the other races, the Heaven's Fate race had a great advantage. Even though the Forbidden Lands were constantly changing, the most hidden and core regions did not change much. 1 reincarnation was nothing, but what would happen after 100 reincarnation eras or 10,000? Even if the Heaven's Fate race only drew a small map, it would accumulate to a terrifying amount. This was the inheritance of a powerful race. The Blood-Maned lair was incomparably huge, but even an ant could move a mountain, not to mention the Destiny race warriors. Their souls were extremely powerful, allowing them to explore a wide range. Not to mention the Blood Python lair. The Destiny race had already explored more than half of the most mysterious and terrifying Godfall world of the heavenly Meteor Forbidden Lands. The other races and forces, even the strongest Emperor Star Tower, had only explored the God-fallen domain and the Blood Centipede lair, but that was just the tip of the iceberg. Needless to say, the human race of the Milky Way had risen to the peak in just a few reincarnations. This was the deep foundation of an ancient race. It's been almost 2,000 years. Haven't those trash from Origin Awakened continent come in yet? Wu Jitian laughed coldly, raising his eyebrows. I'm afraid they've all died outside. It's such a waste to give the blood-sucking token to those trash. This time, the human Lin Feng made a mess of our clan, causing us to lose many of our clansmen and treasures. This angered the king. I have to find more treasures to report back to him. If I can find the sovereign blood mantis horn or a pinnacle true treasure, the king will reward me greatly when he comes out of seclusion. Let's see how lucky I am. Outside the blood centipede lair, Lin Feng, Yi Jian, and Xin stepped in slowly. The pitch-black world was filled with endless mysteries. Devouring air currents could be seen everywhere, corroding even space. It was extremely terrifying. But for great beings who cultivated the Tao of Darkness, cultivating here was twice the result with half the effort. Kacha! Kacha! Stepping down, there were broken bones everywhere. It was unknown whether they belonged to the void beasts, the blood centipede, or the great beings from Origin Awakened continent who had entered here. This is the blood centipede lair. Lin Feng's speed had completely slowed down. Although he could roughly determine the location, the closer he got, the more cautious he became. This was the lair of the blood centipede lair, and no one knew what would happen inside. Plus, just by looking at the piles of bones here, one could tell that this place was extremely dangerous. Don't worry, junior sister. I'll definitely come out safely, Ejin said to Exin. Both of them were orphans who were adopted and taught by Hermit Ching. They grew up on the mountain and were childhood sweethearts, so their relationship was naturally very good. However, they only had one blood-sucking token, so they could only enter one. In terms of strength, Ejin was stronger, so he naturally went in. In, senior brother. Exin nodded lightly. After you go in, I'll return to the hinterland to cultivate alone. The inner area is still too dangerous for me. Lin Feng explored the path and smiled. The relationship between the two was indeed very good. It was not the relationship between a man and a woman, but the relationship between a brother and a sister. Looking at them, he would think of himself and his sister when he was young. This kind of affection made his heart feel warm. Soon, he would return to Earth. Suddenly, crack. Lin Feng was slightly startled. He stepped on a hard object that made contact with the bottom of his foot. There was a dense, dark aura that complemented the surroundings. Lin Feng was slightly surprised. It was extremely familiar. Moving his right foot away and bending down slightly, Lin Feng picked up the hard object and could not help but be startled. It can't be? His luck was so good. The hard object in his hand was completely blood red, with a crimson-red roaring beast imprinted on it. The golden blood-red horn pointed to the sky, and its eyes were filled with killing intent, as if it was alive. It was the blood-sucking Beast King. Swish, Lin Feng raised his hand, and a blood-red token appeared in his left hand. It was exactly the same as the blood-red token he had just picked up in his right hand. He had picked up a blood-sucking token? What's wrong, Brother Lin? Why did you stop? Ejin's voice came from behind. He and Ixin walked side by side, and when they saw the two blood-sucking tokens in Lin Feng's hand, they could not help but rub their eyes, and their pupils dilated. Am I seeing things? Ejin was stunned. Two blood-sucking tokens. Exin was also stunned. Looking at Lin Feng, Brother Lin, didn't you say there was only one blood-sucking token? Lin Feng nodded, put away the original blood-sucking token, and raised his right hand. I just picked it up. Picked it up? Ejin and Exin looked at each other. Lin Feng also smiled, and then directly gave the blood-sucking token to Exin. Take it. You can go in together. No need to separate. But entering the blood-sucking lair is unknown. You can choose whether to go in or not. Thank you, Brother Lin. Exin was overjoyed, as happy as a child, and was very excited. Great! I can also enter the blood-sucking lair. Lin Feng looked forward, his eyes flashing. Don't be so happy here. Something is wrong. Chapter 2052. Ejin and Exin immediately became nervous. They followed closely behind Lin Feng, their bodies slightly shrinking. They were extremely vigilant and uneasy. The surroundings were pitch black, and the darkness engulfed the entire space. There was a sense of bleakness and danger. Lin Feng did not sense where the danger was, but he sensed that something was wrong. First, there were skeletons everywhere. Not only were they accumulated over a long period of time, some of the bones were even new. Secondly, there was the blood-devouring token. It was impossible for the blood-devouring token to appear out of thin air. The 7 blood-devouring tokens had all fallen on the outer land of the spatial fragments. Some had been obtained by others, while others were still lying on ground. However, they were definitely not in the blood-devouring lair. There was only one possibility for the blood-devouring tokens here. They were left behind by other experts. Naturally, they were not left behind voluntarily. Something must have happened. If they had been killed by competitors, the tokens would have been taken away long ago. It was impossible for them to be left here. Therefore, it was very likely that the expert with the blood-devouring token had met with misfortune here. If they died, the tokens would naturally fall. The closer they were to their destination, the easier it would be to obtain them. However, the more dangerous it was, the higher the mortality rate. Because this was the time when their vigilance was at its lowest. It was as if a taut string had been loosened. It's here. Lin Feng's eyes lit up, and the battle saber appeared in his hand. It was purely a feeling. However, for someone who had opened the fifth aperture of Heaven Ho, his sixth sense was even more reliable than aura sensing. The clear, bloodthirsty feeling was like a gust of wind blowing at his heart. Boom! What entered his eyes was a sea of blood. Endless darkness and bloody light. In front of him, countless blood-devouring beasts roared and rushed over. They covered the mountains and plains like a hurricane. The leading blood-devouring beast lord had 3 black blood-devouring horns on his head. He was awe-inspiring and commanded 3 armies. Behind him were 2 groups of blood-devouring beast commanders and 1 group of ordinary blood-devouring beasts with black blood-devouring horns. They charged like soldiers. Endless and endless. It completely blocked his line of sight. This army of blood-devouring beasts could sweep away almost any force. The pressure and aura of the blood-devouring beasts was enough to make ordinary experts tremble and lose their heads out of fear. They were simply unmatched. Just the pressure alone was enough to crush someone. The berserk roar of a beast wanted to completely destroy his will. The ferocious blood-red face was like a nightmare. Darkness devoured everything. Endless blood-red light shrouded everything and instantly erupted. Will impact. Lin Feng instantly understood. It was different from soul attacks and the impact of willpower. It included the determination of willpower, the resistance against illusions, the state of mind, and so on. Just staying true to one's heart was not enough. A certain amount of strength was also required. It seems that this is an autonomous defense of the blood mantis nest. No wonder so many experts died here. Lin Feng instantly understood. Even though Lin Feng was being attacked by his will, he was still able to divert his attention, and his expression was normal. It was obvious that this was not a threat to Lin Feng. This was because his strongest point wasn't his soul defense, but his willpower. The reason his soul defense was so strong was mostly because of the 10,000 origin mustard stone. However, his strong willpower had been deeply imprinted in the depths of Lin Feng's soul since he was young and could not be erased. It was just an illusion, and to Lin Feng, it was like a gentle breeze. But behind Lin Feng, Yi Jian and Exion's faces were pale white. Their eyes were wide open in shock and fear, their minds buzzing. They had never seen such a scene before. Although Master Qing Ying had ample resources and had trained the 2 of them in various aspects, including the impact of willpower, but it was just an illusion. Compared to the natural environment of the blood mantis nest, it was on a completely different level. It is impossible to win. There are too many. Yi Jian crazily killed the blood mantis beasts, his eyes red. He who was in a conscious state had unknowingly fallen into an illusion, his willpower wavering. No, I will die. Exin frantically dodged the attacks. Her willpower was even weaker than Yi Jian's. Yi Jian was able to resist the pressure of the blood mantis beasts, but Exion's willpower was even weaker. Just at this time, dang. The sound of the bell that penetrated the soul rang out, causing the soul to tremble. Exion's entire person seemed to be sluggish. She who was deep in the illusion felt as if someone had knocked her awake. Her soul was completely defenseless, as if it had been struck by lightning. The intense pain attacked her heart, but it caused her to suddenly wake up. Her lips were pale white as she gasped for breath. She was dripping with sweat. Exin regained her senses. She glanced at Yi Jian, who was not much better than her. Her gaze landed on the black figure in front of her. His indifferent expression made her feel incomparably calm. Shua! Lin Feng kept the golden fan bell. His gaze swept past Yi Jian and Exin. Are you all right? Thank you, Brother Lin, for your help. Yi Jian said gratefully. Thank you, Big Brother Lin. Exin bit her lips. She was still somewhat uneasy. In truth, if not for Lin Feng's help, Yi Jian might still have a chance to survive. But Exin would definitely die. Although she was a 9-star expert, ranked around 50 on the Origin Awakening list, Her mental state was only at the level of an 8-star expert. Just now, it could be considered fighting poison with poison. Lin Feng said, "However, I have controlled the might of the golden fan bell. Although your souls are slightly injured, it is not a problem. After a few days, you will be able to recover. This should be the natural pressure of the blood python lair. After all, this is a treasure ground for blood python beasts. Everyone be careful." Jian and Xin were extremely grateful to Lin Feng. All along the way, Lin Feng had helped them too much. If it wasn't for Lin Feng saving them time and time again, they would have probably died here a long time ago. The entrance should be not far ahead. After experiencing the natural willpower of the blood python lair, Lin Feng was completely clear about the location of the entrance. He could accurately determine it. Although it was extremely difficult to sense the aura here, it was no longer necessary. In just a moment, Lin Feng brought Jian and Xin to the entrance of the blood python lair. In front of them, there was a ripple of dark mist. A lifelike blood python beast with 3 golden horns pierced the sky, as if piercing a hole in the sky. It blended into the darkness and condensed into the color of blood. Its eyes were cold and emotionless, filled with endless killing intent. It was as if it was the embodiment of darkness. Below this blood python beast, there were 7 depressions. Each of them was the same size and could fit a blood python token. At this time, 2 of the depressions already had blood python tokens. The remaining 5 depressions were still empty. "I will go in first and explore the way," Lin Feng said to Jian and Xin. After saying that, he took out the blood python token and placed it in the dark and bloody depression. In an instant, a black light shrouded the area. The roar of the blood python beast seemed to resound in the air. Lin Feng's body immediately sank into the thin blood mist and disappeared. Chapter 2053. In the damp and cold blood python lair, a black light flashed. Space seemed to shatter as a figure entered. In the blink of an eye, darkness engulfed the shattered space, and everything returned to normal. What a powerful dark energy. The one who entered was Lin Feng. He could already feel it outside the lair, but after entering, the feeling was even more different. His entire body was bathed in pure, dark energy. Here, the darkness was so strong that even the spatial laws had to retreat. The dark magic patterns were extremely lively, while the light magic patterns were extremely suppressed. For any martial artist who cultivated the light Great Tao, this place was a disaster. Even a perfected light Great Tao could only unleash less than 1/3 of its power. Although my realm has reached the 3rd stage of perfection and my light law is more refined, it's still unavoidable that it's weakened. Lin Feng adapted to the environment and was not in a hurry to explore. After entering an unfamiliar and dangerous place, one had to first have a precise understanding of their own situation. Otherwise, it would be very dangerous to misjudge the situation and strength. Fortunately, my dark Great Tao cultivation is stronger now, and my dark magic patterns have reached the 4th stage. My dark Great Tao strength has increased, and my light Great Tao strength has weakened. Although the fusion power has weakened, the overall strength should not change much. Dealing with a blood python commander is not a problem. As for a blood python lord, it will depend on luck. Lin Feng spread out his aura and explored the surroundings. The blood python lord's strength varied. The weak ones were on the same level as the Demon King and the number 1 warrior of the Wing clan, Qizhen. The strong ones were on the 11th to 20th place on the Origin Awakening list, such as the Gold Demon Dragon King, Master Chu, Fairy Luoyin, and others. There were even some who were close to the strength of a godly expert and ranked in the top 10 of the Origin Awakening list. However, they were very rare. There were not many blood python lords in the first place. Although they were powerful, that was only in terms of combat and attack. Blood python lords were not very intelligent and relied on their instincts to survive. Their use of strength was also very crude. Even if he encountered a strong blood python lord, it would not be a problem for him to survive. In other places of the blood python land, the chances of encountering a blood python lord are very small. After hundreds of years, I have only killed 17 blood pythons. However, in the blood python lair, there are only blood pythons. I can obtain many blood python horns. The land of Blood Wasteland was huge. Be it the hinterland or the inner region, there weren't many blood devourers. Most of them were void beasts. As food, the void beasts reproduced and killed each other, competing for survival in the ordinary land. As the master of the blood python land, the blood python beast occupied the best land and cultivated in the blood python lair to increase its strength. Occasionally, it would leave to hunt in the inner region and temper itself. Ordinary blood-sucking beasts had a novice blood-sucking horn. The blood-sucking beast commander had 2 blood-sucking horns. One was elementary and the other was medium. When the blood-sucking beast evolved, one of its great Tao of darkness would level up. At the same time, it would comprehend a second great Tao of darkness. Every blood-fang horn represented a perfected great Tao of darkness. As for the blood python beast overlord, it had 3 blood python horns. One was high grade, one was middle grade, and one was low grade. The blood-fang horn contained the way of extreme darkness. It was on the level of 100,000 reciprocity, so it was rather precious. Of course, it was not as valuable as the blood-sucking primal core. After all, the blood-sucking primal core was the essence of the blood-sucking tree. It could be comprehended as long as it was refined. It did not require talent or any other conditions. It could be described as extremely perfect among cultivation treasures. The great Tao of the blood-sucking tree was bestowed by the heavens. It was the purest existence. However, the blood-sucking beasts were different. Their starting point was lower than the blood-sucking tree. They relied more on their own cultivation. The 100,000 reciprocity cores within the blood-sucking horn were modeled and complicated. They were completely different from the blood-sucking primal core. One of them was a perfect gem with 100% purity. The other might only have 30%, 20%, or even 10% purity. How much was actually useful would depend on luck. Not every blood-sucking beast would comprehend the correct path and walk on the right path. As a result, the blood-sucking horn was completely different in value from the blood-sucking primal core. But there's a blood-sucking horn that's incomparable to the blood-sucking primal core. Lin Feng had read in the ancient records of the Milky Way's human race that the blood-sucking beast overlord would become the blood-sucking beast king after breaking through the limit. When the 3 black blood-sucking horns fused into one and turned into a golden horn, it meant that one of the great Tao of darkness had reached perfection. 100,000 reciprocity realm experts. Golden, supreme blood-sucking horn. If I can get it, 100,000 reciprocity realm experts will be within my reach. Lin Feng knew that it was an extravagant hope. With a blood-sucking beast king's strength, if he ran into it, he would not even be able to escape. Even if his luck was good and he ran into a heavily injured blood-sucking beast king, he would not be its opponent. Blood-sucking beasts were at the peak of every level of strength. Once they became deities, they would also be well-known figures of their level. Even the top 10 experts of the Origin Awakener list would not be able to kill them. At this moment, while a male and female figure appeared at almost the same time. Their faces were tense, and they seemed extremely nervous. They were the Yi Jian and Yi Xian brother and sister. The moment they entered, Sword Qi swept out, guarding the area without leaving a single trace behind. Lin Feng laughed involuntarily. Once bitten, twice shy. The two of them still remembered the willpower attack outside the blood-sucking lair. Seeing Lin Feng, Yi Jian and Yi Xian were overjoyed. They put away their sword array and approached him. Brother Lin, big brother Lin. Lin Feng had saved them time and time again, so they naturally relied on Lin Feng. This feeling was very subtle. Lin Feng saw this and smiled, but he did not say anything. Yi Jian and Yi Xian were different from Yin Faoyang and Bai Quan. Although their strength was similar, the two of them were like blank pieces of paper. They had just left the mountain and did not know anything, nor did they have any plans for benefits. They only wanted to temper themselves. If he could help them, he would help them. But very soon, he would separate from them and move alone. After all, this was the blood python's lair. Everyone had their own fortuitous encounters. Moving together was not necessarily the best choice for him or the others. However, he had to do one last thing first. Before us, two experts have already entered the blood-sucking lair. One of them is most likely the #1 warrior of the winged race, Chijun. He fled in the direction of the blood-sucking lair and had been waiting here with Demon King He for a long time. He should have a blood-sucking token on him. With Chijun's strength, if Yi Jian and Yi Xian run into him, they will definitely die. Lin Feng was very clear. Since they had shed all pretense of cordiality, they were naturally enemies. Unlike the inner area, the blood-sucking lair was filled with danger. No matter how bold Chijun was, he would not dare to fly around randomly. In terms of time, he had entered the blood-sucking lair not much faster than the three of them. It was very likely that they would encounter him soon. Killing him and getting rid of future troubles was the last thing Lin Feng could do for Yi Jian and Yi Xian. Chapter 2054. In the darkness, Chijun's face was covered in blood. There was a large gash in his armor, and his wings were stained with blood. His injuries were not light. Chijun's ugly face was twisted in pain. In front of him was the corpse of a blood-sucking beast commander, lying in a pool of blood. The 10th one. How can there be so many blood-sucking beasts in this damn place? Chijun's expression was fierce as he quickly recovered from his injuries. He had only been in the blood-sucking beast lair for a few years, but he had encountered more blood-sucking beasts than he had in the past few hundred years. Many of them were blood-sucking beast commanders, which are difficult to deal with. These broken blood-sucking horns are useless, Chijun muttered as he took two of the blood-sucking beast commander's blood-sucking horns and put them away. He did not cultivate the great Tao of darkness, so the blood-sucking horns were not very useful to him. Even if he sold them, they would only be sold for a normal price. However, no matter how small a mosquito was, it was still meat. Chijun would not throw away such a trophy. I want an outstanding supreme treasure. If I can find a compatible spatial supreme treasure here, my battle strength will increase greatly, and it will not be impossible for me to enter the top 20 of the Origin Awakening list. At that time, I will no longer fear that monstrous human. Chijun remembered the previous battle like it was yesterday. He was deeply shocked by Archfiend King He's death. An unknown human youth had actually killed Archfiend King He, who was ranked 29th on the Origin Awakening list. No one would believe it. However, he had seen it with his own eyes. If he had not run fast enough, he would not have been able to escape death. With such strength and the fact that he has entered the core area, he must be here for the blood-sucking beast lair. Chijun's eyes were filled with worry as he gritted his teeth. It's very likely that we will run into him. If I'm not completely confident, I will avoid him for now. Chijun was extremely wary of Lin Feng, the #1 warrior of the winged race, ranked 27th on the Origin Awakening list. Chijun's name was not for nothing. He was brave and smart, and he knew how to avoid risks. He would not provoke someone he could not afford to provoke. In the blood-sucking beast lair. Over here, Lin Feng's senses clearly sensed the surroundings, searching for Chijun's location. If it was the core area of the blood-sucking beast lair or the inner area, it would be impossible to find him without any clues. But this place was different. In the blood marmoset's lair, there wouldn't be any fighting, nor would there be any smell of blood. The only possibility was that there had just been a battle, because the blood marmoset was very xenophobic. Especially in their own territory, they wouldn't allow other races to exist. When they saw him, they would kill him. They would not rest until he was dead. This time, there's an obvious smell of blood. It should be close. Lin Feng had been searching for Chijun for many years. At first, he was a loss, but later he gradually found a pattern, and he was getting closer and closer. The blood centipede's lair was indeed huge, and it had 9 bends and 18 twists like a maze. However, it was rare for there to be a dead end. Usually, every path in every direction of the nest was connected, and one could always find the right direction after going around in circles. Furthermore, Chijun himself was like a blind man crossing a river, fumbling around as he walked. Before him, there were already 2 blood puppet tokens. The possessor of the first blood python token had either perished or entered the depths of the blood python's lair, so it was impossible for them to bump into each other in a short period of time. His senses were getting deeper and deeper. Blood-sucking beasts had a unique aura, and so did the winged men. They were different from humans. The winged men used their wings to fly, so their aura was very special and affected space. Found him. In the blood-sucking beast lair, auras were difficult to detect on a large scale. They would be swallowed by the darkness. But Lin Feng's intuition and experience told him that Qi Zhen should be not far ahead. The paths twisted, and the turbid aura caused space to become chaotic. Yi Jian and Exin followed closely behind Lin Feng. They did not know what was going on. They did not have much experience, so they followed Lin Feng. While fighting blood-sucking beasts, they were also accumulating experience. They trusted Lin Feng very much. They had not encountered any real danger along the way. But now, they felt that something was wrong, as if they were about to bump into something. The changes in their surroundings were also different. Suddenly, whoosh, light flashed in front of them, and the space fluctuated violently. There was a sharp turn in front of them, and they were greeted by a figure with golden wings flapping. His sharp eyes were filled with shock and anger, and the space shook. Buzz, 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 crack, crack. Qi Zhen's power exploded, and his extremely powerful domain was like a raging fire. Yi Jian and Exion's expressions changed, and the battle that day appeared in their minds. It was deeply engraved in their bones. That day, they had fought 2-1 against the number 1 warrior of the Winged Men clan, Qi Zhen. They had been suppressed throughout the battle, and they had been unable to fight back. It was incomparably terrifying. After thinking about it, they realized that Qi Zhen had not used his full strength. They did not expect to meet such a terrifying opponent again in the blood-sucking beast lair. Enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. Last time, he had inexplicably left, and they had been able to keep their lives. But they could not expect him to suddenly leave every time, right? Fight! Yi Jian and Exin gritted their teeth, their faces pale. The combination of the two swords created another wave. Although they knew that they were not as strong as Qi Zhen, they could not just sit and wait for death. Even if they were to die, they would fight fair and square and die with dignity. As for Lin Feng, Yi Jian and Exin did not count on him. They had fought with Lin Feng before, and they knew that Lin Feng's domain control and defense were a bit stronger. In terms of attack, he was far from their level. Even if they added him, boom! With a thunderous attack, a pitch-black saber stretched out like a demon's claws, directly shattering Qi Zhen's attack. Lin Feng's saber light crisscrossed, and an endless dark aura condensed. When the saber fell, the entire world seemed to become extremely quiet. In an instant, Qi Zhen's painful roar rang out. His golden wings spread out, and blood splattered everywhere. Damn it! Qi Zhen roared, and his domain expanded once again. His golden wings completely covered the blood-sucking beast lair, and a sharp sound with explosive power rang out. However, Lin Feng used Great Brahma, directly breaking through a domain against a domain. The wings of warmth spread out, and the black wings turned into spatial distortions. Their pressure was released, and they completely broke through Qi Zhen's golden wings. The whole area was like an iron cage. Not only was it open, but it was also completely broken. The saber fell, containing the power of darkness, as if it was about to cut the blood-sucking beast lair into pieces. Qi Zhen let out a miserable groan, and like a kite with its string cut, he flew back, his face filled with panic. His mournful and unwilling voice resounded through the blood-sucking beast lair. His golden wings turned into a stream of light, and Qi Zhen fled like a stray dog. Yi Jian and Exin were dumbstruck, completely stupefied. Chapter 2055. You two, let's part here. Lin Feng's figure flashed and landed in front of Yi Jian and Exin. Looking at the two dumbfounded people, Lin Feng smiled slightly. Nice to meet you. If you have the chance, come find me at the Milky Way's human race. Don't worry about the blood-maned lair. but remember not to go too deep. As for Qi Zhen, don't worry. He can't run away. Goodbye. Lin Feng's voice fell. In an instant, he turned into a stream of light and chased after Qi Zhen. Lin Feng didn't care about the short 10 seconds of farewell. Even if he gave Qi Zhen 100 or 1,000 seconds, he couldn't run away. He locked his aura and sealed the space. In the blood-maned lair, Qi Zhen was like a prey in his hand, with nowhere to run. He would die without a doubt. Whoosh! Lin Feng's figure disappeared. After a long time, Yi Jian and Yi Xian finally reacted. Their shocked faces were full of disbelief. They looked at each other, overwhelmed with shock. They had been with Lin Feng for hundreds of years. Although they were familiar with him, they had never seen Lin Feng's strength. The only time was when he fought with them. At that time, Lin Feng only used his domain and defense. They thought that Lin Feng was good at this, but it turned out to be a big joke. So he was just giving us a chance that day. Yi Jian completely understood now. So Qi Zhen didn't run away because he had something urgent to do, but because of Brother Lin's strength. Right? Qi Zhen attacked us, so there must have been another expert of the same level who attacked Brother Lin. Yi Jian recalled that at that time, Lin Feng had only casually said the words nobody. But now, it seemed that the identity of this nobody was extraordinary. Even Qi Zhen fled in panic when he saw him. Brother Lin, he is so powerful. Exin gritted her teeth and looked in the direction Lin Feng left. Her beautiful eyes flickered with reverence. That's right. No wonder Brother Lin is able to save us from danger so easily every time. Yi Jian heaved a sigh of relief and laughed bitterly. With this kind of strength, it is naturally easy and carefree. Senior brother, we owe Big Brother Lin a big favor. Exin pursed her lips. Yi Jian sighed. I really don't know how to repay him. Actually, our luck is really good. Junior sister, this time, it can be said that we have met a benefactor. Exin lightly nodded. If there is a chance, I will definitely repay Big Brother Lin. Damn it. Damn you. I have no enmity with him, so why is he pursuing me so relentlessly? Qi Zhen's face contorted as he gnashed his teeth. He had lost miserably in just 2 moves. This was not his true strength, but it was enough to test out Lin Feng's strength. It was terrifying. No wonder Demon King, he died in his hands. By now, Qi Zhen was well aware of how strong Lin Feng was. It wasn't something he could deal with right now, so escaping was the right choice. He was taking a gamble. He was betting that Lin Feng would not dare to chase after him at the speed of light. Is this guy crazy? If he continues chasing like this, he will attract a large number of bloodsuckers and be surrounded. Qi Zhen himself was not confident. In the territory of the bloodsuckers, flying at the speed of light and causing a huge commotion was not a wise choice. He had no choice but to escape. However, this monster could have given up on chasing after him. Including the first time, this was only the second time they had met. Why did they have to fight to the death? Why did they harm others without benefiting themselves? Unfortunately, no matter how much Qi Zhen complained or cursed in his heart, it would not change anything. Lin Feng was still chasing after him, unwilling to let him go. Lin Feng had known since he was young that he had to pull out the roots when cutting weeds. Since they were already enemies, there was no need to show mercy, whether it was for Yi Jian, Yi Xian, or for himself. Although Qi Zhen had not directly attacked him that day, he and Demon King, he had the same goal. Escape. Lin Feng's eyes were cold. You can't escape. Since they were both traveling at the speed of light, Qi Zhen could not escape. The Bloodsucker lair was not like the other places in the Bloodsucker land. It was too difficult to exceed the speed of light here. Although the distance between them was more than 10 seconds, and it seemed impossible to catch up, that was not the case. This was the Bloodsucker lair. There was a large number of bloodsuckers here. Qi Zhen traveled at the speed of light, causing a huge commotion. It would not be long before he encountered an attack from a bloodsucker. At that time, he would have to slow down and fight with the bloodsuckers. At that time, he would be able to catch up. If he followed behind him and followed his path, although he might encounter a bloodsucker, the chances would be much lower. It's here indeed. Lin Feng quickly sensed the aura of battle ahead. As he flew past, There was a bloody aura ahead. A bloodsucker had been killed. An ordinary bloodsucker. It will only hinder him for a moment. Lin Feng was not in a hurry. Another opportunity came quickly. This time, it was not an ordinary bloodsucker, but a bloodsucker commander. Even if Qi Zhen did his best, the 10-second gap would be reduced to a few seconds. He was within reach. As long as Qi Zhen stopped, he would be able to catch him. Fight! Qi Zhen gritted his teeth, his eyes red. He knew that once he was caught, his chances of survival were extremely low. Since that was the case, he might as well throw caution to the wind. If I die, we die together. If I enter that place, at least I have a chance of survival. Qi Zhen was very clear. As long as he encountered another bloodsucker, even if it was an ordinary one, he would be caught by the monstrous human behind him. It was better to stake everything on one throw and enter the strange, forbidden Blackland. That place made him feel incomparably dangerous. Intuition and experience told him that entering that place was a situation of 9 deaths, but he had no other choice. Under such a great disadvantage, the only way was to fight for survival. What he hoped for now was that he would not encounter another bloodsucker before entering the forbidden Blackland. Otherwise, he would not even be able to enter. Pung, pung, pung. Qi Zhen's heart was beating extremely fast. Every second was torture. Moving at the speed of light, the angry roars of the bloodsuckers seemed to linger in his ears. He did not even care about being attacked. A huge pitch-black cave appeared in front of him, like a giant beast opening its bloody mouth to devour everything. Surrounded by a thick black fog, Qi Zhen frowned, but he did not slow down and charged straight in. A few seconds later, Lin Feng stopped in front of the pitch-black cave. Such powerful, dark energy. What is this place? Looking around, Lin Feng was not in a hurry. He knew that Qi Zhen had entered this pitch-black cave, but he did not know what was inside. A trap? Or some other strange place? Lin Feng was also very curious. Although he had guessed Qi Zhen's intentions, this was an open trap. If he did not enter, it would be the same as letting Qi Zhen go. If he entered, it would be extremely dangerous. How should he choose? If you dare to enter, do you think I don't? Lin Feng did not hesitate for long. He smiled faintly and entered. Chapter 2056. The Forbidden Black Land was recorded in ancient documents. Of course, it was only recorded in the Winged Men race and the Chan Demon race, which had a long history. The Milky Way's human race had only just become one of the 5 major races, and their foundation was not that deep. This place was near the entrance of the blood python lair, and it was very dangerous, so it was easy to be discovered. Anyone who entered the blood python lair would definitely discover the existence of the Forbidden Black Land. According to the records, those who entered would die 10 times out of 10. Of course, it was unknown if anyone had ever come out alive. After all, this was a secret of the race, and they would not tell other forces. For example, the Destiny race had detailed records of the Forbidden Black Land. The Winged Men race also had records. What was recorded in the two were completely different. The most dangerous place of all, the Winged Men race must remember not to enter the Forbidden Black Land. Remember. His ancestors' words were deeply engraved in his mind. Qi Zhen's face was ashen as he entered. He had no choice. If he did not enter, he would die. He might as well fight to the death. Even if it was the most dangerous place of all, there was still a chance of survival. However, he could not see any chance of survival on the outside. If it was an open area, he could rely on his speed and control of space to escape. However, in the blood python lair, countless blood pythons would tear him to pieces. Come after me. Come in if you dare. If you want to die, we'll all die together. Ha ha. Qi Zhen seemed to have gone mad, and his eyes shone with a cold light. By now, he had already disregarded life and death. Those who could rank at the top of the Origin Awakener list were not ordinary people. They had survived countless battles. Afraid of death? That was impossible. However, as long as there was a chance, they would do their best to survive. The dark aura here is very dense. Especially dense. Lin Feng slowed down and entered the Forbidden Black Land. Unlike Qi Zhen, who was desperate. Lin Feng was bold and fearless. Even without Qi Jun, Lin Feng would have taken a look at this strange black cave. This was because there were often secrets hidden here. The more dangerous it was, the higher the reward. A lot of blood pythons' auras remain. A lot more than outside. Lin Feng's senses were much stronger than Qigong's. He was able to clearly analyze the environment and was already mentally prepared. It was obvious that there were many blood devourers here, and they were very frequent. Therefore, many of their auras were left behind. Qi Jun's aura, this way. Lin Feng sensed his surroundings and quickly followed Qi Jun's path. Right now, his primary goal was still Qi Jun. Only by killing this winged men expert would he be able to feel at ease. As for this strange dark area, it wouldn't be too late to explore it slowly. Unlike humans, the winged men relied on their wings to fly. At the same time, the flight path of the winged men was also very easy to grasp. This was because their flight path would always cause slight changes in space. This might not be of much use to other experts, but to Lin Feng, it was enough to reveal his whereabouts. Slowly approaching. Plop, plop. His heartbeat quickened as Lin Feng faintly sensed some danger. This place seems very unusual. Lin Feng frowned slightly and became even more cautious. After activating his Heaven Eye cultivation, he gained the ability to sense. Lin Feng's sixth sense was abnormally strong. That sense of danger was like a maggot attached to a bone, surging out bit by bit. The deeper he went, the more dangerous it was. Lin Feng carefully advanced, remembering the path he had taken. No matter how many bends there were, or how dark it was, it didn't affect him at all. Every path he had taken was like a map, clearly drawn in his mind. If there was danger he couldn't resist, he could retreat immediately. With his speed, which was limited to the highest speed of light here, he could completely retreat the moment he sensed it. I've got it. Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up. Although the range of his senses was limited, he had already detected Qi Jun's aura. The demon Peric saber in his hand glinted coldly. Lin Feng's eyes flashed with killing intent, and he suddenly erupted at the highest speed of light. He was right in front of him. There was no need to hide. This is... Qi Jun's eyes widened as he looked at the pile of fur not far away. The cave was wet with a thick stench, and he gulped. Based on his experience, although he had only glimpsed a little, he had a rough idea of what was going on. Bang, bang, bang. Qi Jun's heart raced, and his eyes suddenly turned cold. He seemed to hear the frenzied roars of the blood mastiff. Although the surrounding black fog wasn't poisonous, it contained a familiar law. The law of dark matter. Not good, not good. Qi Jun felt a chill run down his spine, and cold sweat dripped down his back. His face was pale, and his golden wings trembled slightly. His eyes widened in shock, and he wanted to escape. At this moment, boom, the saber light split the sky, and the sky seemed to cry. The surrounding space shattered, and a strangling power swept towards Qi Jun. The attacker's attack and control were top-notch. He had completely locked onto Qi Jun with one move. This area wasn't very wide, but it was like a giant cage, and Qi Jun had nowhere to run. Qi Jun glared angrily and immediately counterattacked. He wanted nothing more than to skin this human and tear him to pieces. Damned human. It's all your fault. It's all your fault. Go to hell. Qi Jun had gone completely crazy. His golden wings spread wide, and his eyes revealed a determined ferocity. Unable to retreat, he burned his life force and attacked Lin Feng crazily. He knew very well that there was no way out. He had one foot in the grave. Since he was going to die, there was nothing to be afraid of. If he was going to die, he would die together. He wouldn't let go of this despicable human who had forced him into a corner. Boom, boom, boom. Space Tao against Space Tao. The winged men's control of space was extremely powerful. Although they were late to the game, they were able to resist Lin Feng's great Brahma by relying on the law alone. Qi Jun's comprehension of the law of space was quite high. Especially now that he had fully unleashed his power, he burned his battle prowess to the peak. The boundless space shattered, and the darkness eroded. His golden wings turned into a stream of light, and Qi Zhen charged towards Lin Feng. If he didn't succeed, he would die trying. Brahma's wrath. Lin Feng controlled Brahma to the maximum, and the black vortex released the greatest amount of energy. The effects of Brahma's domain and Brahma's wrath were greatly enhanced. The powerful domain suppressed Qi Zhen, and countless spatial strands crushed him like the wrath of the heavens. Lin Feng knew very well what Qi Zhen's strongest point was, the law of space. Therefore, he wouldn't give him any chance to win or escape. This time, he would definitely die. Chapter 2057. Warm Wings Slash. Under the double attack, the power of the two spatial artifacts suppressed Qi Zhen's spatial laws. Lin Feng's demon Perak blade glowed coldly. His blade's end had reached 99%. In terms of close combat, Lin Feng was stronger than Qi Zhen. Boundless weight, heaviness against sharpness, boundless against resoluteness. Lin Feng's attacks pressed down like a mountain, dispersing wave after wave of Qi Zhen's attacks, completely destroying them. His attacks were utterly crushed, not giving Qi Zhen any chance to retaliate. Boom, boom, boom. The collision of spatial distortion and the bloody close-quarters combat. Both sides exchanged blows, neither giving way to the other. One was stronger in terms of pure strength, while the other was using life ignition. However, this didn't last long. Qi Zhen's power declined quickly, especially after he was injured. His life force was severely overdrawn, and he was soon dispirited and unable to continue. Qi, the blade light directly chopped off Qi Zhen's golden wings, and in the next instant, it heavily shattered Qi Zhen's armor. Pooh! Qi Zhen spat out blood and fell to the ground. Half of his body was covered in blood, but his eyes were still crazed. His body trembled, and he screamed hysterically. Die! Let's all die together. Human, don't be happy too early. The blood-sucking beast will avenge me, for sure. No one has ever walked out of the forbidden Black Land alive. Qi Zhen gritted his teeth, full of hatred. Qi Zhen's eyes burned with blood. He screamed crazily, using his last bit of strength. The space around him exploded. You will not be an exception. Die, human. Boom. The earth-shattering explosion drowned out the surrounding space. The self-destruction of a 9-star expert using the last bit of his strength was terrifying. Lin Fengxiu's wings flapped, and space became chaotic. He stared intently at Qi Zhen's last words before he exploded, his expression solemn. He could feel the strangeness and unusualness of this place. Clearly, Qi Zhen knew about this. The Forbidden Black Land? Lin Feng's eyes were like lightning. He could feel the danger coming. He put away Qi Zhen's storage ring and treasures and hurriedly retreated. Returned to the cave entrance first. Whether it was the battle just now or Qi Zhen's final self-destruction, the commotion caused was too great. He's here. As soon as Lin Feng retreated, he sensed the arrival of the blood-sucking beast. It was rapidly approaching from the depths of the Forbidden Black Land. Its aura was quite powerful. Bloodsucker Commander. With Lin Feng's strength, he could definitely kill a blood succubus commander. However, it wasn't a matter of killing 1 or 2 blood succubi. The danger in this area was terrifying. Now was not the time to show off. Whoosh! Lin Feng quickly retreated according to the map he had just drawn in his mind. Even though he was surrounded by black fog, he did not need to rely on his eyes to find the right path. The wings of warmth moved quickly. Lin Feng followed the direction and retreated as fast as he could. However, in just an instant, bang! The wings of warmth slammed heavily into a giant stone wall. Lin Feng's face suddenly changed. Naturally, it wasn't because he was injured. Instead, it was because the existence of this giant stone wall was completely illogical. There was clearly a path ahead, but this giant stone wall had suddenly appeared and completely blocked the path. This giant stone wall naturally did not appear out of nowhere. Instead, it had always existed in the Forbidden Black Land. It was continuous and perfectly integrated with the surrounding environment. Lin Feng quivered and instantly understood what was going on. The Tao of dark matter. Not good. The black fog contains the Tao of dark matter. It will affect space. The power of darkness was too strong. Outside the bloodsucker lair, space had already been suppressed. In this strange, forbidden black land, space was completely suppressed. The strangeness of the law of dark matter was that it was ever-changing and omnipresent. At this moment, the natural cave had been transformed by the law of dark matter into a land of despair. Roar! Roar! The furious roars of the bloodsuckers rang in his ears. They were ferocious and cruel. Several black figures sped over like streaks of light. The two black horns on their heads were as fierce as knives. The moment Lin Feng stopped, the bloodsuckers would attack. Fight! The dark demonic patterns shone brightly. This was Lin Feng's instinctive reaction. He had no choice but to attack directly. The blood mastiff commander, who was charging at the front, bore the brunt of the attack. They clashed head-on, and Lin Feng's saber slashed out decisively. Chi! One slash to kill. The fourth stage dark demonic patterns shone brightly. The source of the Holy Land released a large amount of energy, replenishing Lin Feng's energy. Facing the bloodsucker commanders behind him, Lin Feng unleashed a massacre. This was the best opportunity. I have to give it my all. Lin Feng gritted his teeth and unleashed his combat strength. If he waited for these bloodsucker commanders to gather and form an encirclement, he would have no choice but to escape no matter how strong he was. But now, as long as he was fast enough, he would only have to face one bloodsucker commander at a time. The strongest would only be Qi Zhen and Demon King He. However, they did not have Qi Zhen's combat intelligence and could only attack instinctively. Boom! Qi! Lin Feng gave it his all. Every slash was at least 80% of his strength. Under normal circumstances, he would have exhausted all his strength. However, the dark energy here was abundant, and the source of the Holy Land provided him with an endless supply of energy. Countless bloodsucker commanders were beheaded, dying tragically in pools of blood. Lin Feng was incomparably crazy. Slash after slash, he completely entered a state of slaughter. He killed 12 bloodsucker commanders in a row. Even with the source of the Holy Land replenishing his strength, his movements were still slightly slower. The bloodsucker commanders were even more terrifying. One after another, they never stopped. As soon as he slowed down, Lin Feng was besieged by 2 bloodsucker commanders. Gradually it became 3, then 4, and snowballed. Even with the protection of the Warm Wings and the Mashua boat, his defense was in a difficult situation. It was a heavy test. Scram! Lin Feng's combat strength erupted. The dark energy on his body boiled almost instantly. It suddenly exploded and blasted away all the bloodsucker commanders around him, creating a path. Lin Feng spread the Warm Wings. As the space was distorted, he hurriedly sped away. If he stayed any longer, there would be more bloodsucker commanders. By then, he would not be able to leave even if he wanted to. Right now, there was still a chance. Looks like I poked a hornet's nest this time. Lin Feng's eyes flashed as he maintained the speed of light. The dark demonic patterns shone brightly. With the source of the Holy Land as the main source, Lin Feng's recovery speed was extremely fast. Back then, he had been able to fight with the powerful bloodsucker tree for 3 days. However, there was only one powerful bloodsucker tree, and it could not be moved. The bloodsucker commanders here were endless. They were like locusts that could not be killed. These locusts had the strength of mid-tier deity experts. Some were even close to high-tier deity experts. How terrifying. Qi Zhen, good plan. Looks like there's some trouble this time. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. Although he was in danger, his eyes were still full of confidence. Chapter 2058. Blood Python Lair. As expected of a blood python lair, this battle made Lin Feng pay more attention and be more careful. The suppression of numbers was terrifying. If he didn't have the origin of the Holy Land, he wouldn't have been able to hold on for so long. If he couldn't kill one of the blood python commanders immediately, the other blood python commanders would appear like rolling snowballs and surround him. To easily deal with the blood python commanders, one has to be at least in the top 10 of the Origin Awakening list. But even the top 10 of the Origin Awakening list, a high-level deity, would have to flee in panic when faced with the endless blood python commanders. The Sea of Beasts was terrifying. Lin Feng had experienced the calamity on Earth. Although he was very strong now, he couldn't let his guard down. If he was careless and fell into an encirclement, he would die. Especially now that he was in the Forbidden Black Land, where he didn't know where the exit was. Leaving wasn't easy. It's just a natural change of the law of dark matter. It won't change the terrain itself. Lin Feng was very clear about this. The fact that he could enter from the outside meant that there was an entrance to the Forbidden Black Land. The natural law of dark matter would change space, but it wouldn't affect the terrain itself. Where there was a mountain, there was still a mountain, but the location had changed. Where there was water, there was still water, but it wasn't in the original place. The entrance was the same, but it's a bit difficult to find the entrance. Although he had analyzed the law of dark matter's 100,000 origins, there was no pattern to the law of dark matter. Even if he understood the principle, he wouldn't be able to see the changes. There are two ways. Either I find the pattern to the changes of the law of dark matter, or I'll just try my luck. Lin Feng quickly made his decision. Try his luck. Perhaps in other places, he would choose the first method, but here, the second method was more realistic. First, the law of dark matter in the Forbidden Black Land might not have a pattern to it. Second, the threat of the blood python was like a thorn. He couldn't stay in the same place for too long. If he stayed here and studied the pattern, and the blood python suddenly attacked, he wouldn't be able to resist and would have to run. When the law of dark matter changed, he wouldn't be able to find his original position, and he would have to start again. This cycle might be even more unreliable than trying his luck. Sometimes there is no need to think so much. Charge. As long as there is an entrance, there must be a chance to leave. Lin Feng's figure flashed through the forbidden black grounds like lightning, his eyes filled with anticipation. There was another decisive factor as to why he chose to try his luck. Treasure hunting. The greater the danger, the greater the opportunity. In this peculiar forbidden black land, there was an 80% to 90% chance that there were top-grade treasures. If he stayed in the same place and searched, how was he going to find any treasures? Since he was already here, and Qi Zhen had already been killed by him, it was time to stick to his original plan. Killing the blood python, seizing the blood python horn, searching for opportunities, and searching for treasures. There are too many blood-sucking beasts to kill. There's no need to fight them head-on. If we do, kill one or two and leave. It might not be a good thing to be greedy. Just like earlier, he'd killed an entire 18 blood-sucking beast commanders. What was the result? They were forced to leave before they had the time to retrieve their blood-devouring horns. This was the blood python's lair. No matter how strong he was, it was impossible for him to kill all the blood pythons. Moreover, there was no benefit to killing so many blood pythons. If the blood-maned Beast King was enraged and chased after him, it would be troublesome. Whoosh! Lin Feng was also decisive. He quickly traversed the forbidden black land without any fear. Instead, he was a little excited. The demon Peric saber in his hand was ferocious. Although he couldn't unleash 100% of his strength, it was still greatly enhanced in this unique area. It would be great if I had a dark elemental superior true treasure weapon. Lin Feng cleanly killed a blood-sucking beast commander and took the blood python horn in the next moment. Whoosh! His body moved and flashed, and the space twisted like a shadow. The warm wings pierced through the bones of the rhinoceros, and the demon Peric saber took the head of another blood-sucking beast commander. Although these blood-sucking beasts had extraordinary talents and strong bodies, they lacked intelligence and did not have armor to protect them. Their defense was weak. Whoosh! 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 With 3 consecutive slashes, Lin Feng killed 2 of the blood-sucking beast commanders. The third blood-sucking beast commander was only severely injured. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. With the demon Peric saber's rebounding force supporting his body, he stepped back and retreated. Within the range of his senses, he sensed another group of blood-sucking beast commanders. He did not want to continue fighting. Lin Feng flew at the speed of light. Behind him, The blood-sucking beast commanders roared furiously. They could not do anything to Lin Feng. There were strong and weak blood-sucking beast commanders, and they all had different understandings of the great Tao of darkness. Only blood-sucking beasts that had comprehended the great Tao of dark matter could reach the speed of light. However, even those blood-sucking beasts could not compare to Lin Feng in terms of the great Tao of dark matter. He retreated as he fought. If it were other experts, no matter how strong their endurance was, they would have exhausted their strength. However, Lin Feng would not. The dark demonic patterns were led by the source of the Holy Land. An endless stream of dark energy flowed into his body. Absorbing and replenishing energy was much faster than consuming it. It was not only because the source of the Holy Land was special and powerful, but also because the dark energy in the blood-sucking land was extremely rich. The only limitation was the demon Peric saber. I neglected this point when I entered the turbulent void. Lin Feng did not expect his strength to increase so quickly. It was so fast that the demon Peric saber could not unleash its full potential. However, superior true treasures were hard to find, and superior true treasures were even harder to find. Moreover, it was a saber-type weapon. This was undoubtedly a big problem. There was no such weapon in the contribution tower of the Milky Way human clan. Otherwise, he would have taken it long ago. Demon King Qi Zhen's weapon won't work either. Lin Feng flew quickly. He had been fighting in the Forbidden Black Land for hundreds of days, so he was very clear about his own limitations. If he had a superior true treasure saber, he would have at least doubled the number of blood-sucking horns he had now. Moreover, he did not even need to escape in many battles. Or, why don't I try this black skeleton? Lin Feng suddenly had an idea. A pitch-black light flashed in his hand. It stood tall, like a stone pillar. It was completely black, as if it was made of perfect and pure black gemstones. Its aura was as strong as the wings of warmth. It was the green palm tree race's ancestors' weapon to repay him. And superior true treasure. This was a darkness-type weapon. It was also suitable for him and resonated with his bloodline. The green palm tree race used to be one of the 5 major races. This black skeleton was the treasure of their race and was naturally not ordinary. However, this superior true treasure weapon that was as strong as the wings of warmth was not a saber. Instead, it was a stick. Try using the stick as a saber? Lin Feng's lips curled into a playful smile. He said to himself, actually, it's possible. Perhaps it's as good as the demon Peric saber? Let's try it. Chapter 2059. Fusion. Immediately, Hei Tung shone with a hazy black light. It was like a pearl covered in dust. Now that the dust had been wiped away, its true appearance was revealed. The weapon that had once erupted with limitless power in the hands of the ancestor of the green tree race had finally seen the light of day again. Once, the ancestor of the green tree race had wielded it in a battle to the death with the destiny race. It was not a peak treasure, but it was extremely close. The supreme treasure, Heitung, Quangqi, a vicious, dark dragon appeared on the huge, black weapon. It was covered in layers of demonic inscriptions, making it seem like the most beautiful painting in the world of darkness. Every single demonic inscription possessed the power of 100,000 Origin Realm experts. Whoosh! Lin Feng's eyes shone. The moment he fused with it, information flooded into his head. It contained all the characteristics and usage of the supreme treasure, Heitung. It was forged from the purest natural darkness saint artifact, the obsidian diamond core. The obsidian diamond core could change its size at will, while the obsidian diamond core could change its shape at will. The stick was only its most basic form. Huh! Lin Feng laughed in a carefree manner. With a thought, the black stick in his hand immediately became thinner and shorter. It gradually became a hilt in his hand. The top of the stick curved slightly, turning into a blade. The blade was bone-chilling, causing the original black dragon demonic inscriptions to become even more twisted and vicious. Demonic aura radiated from it. What a peerless saber! Lin Feng immediately felt like he had become one with the blade. The devil-perishing blade could not compare to the perfection and comfort he felt. Just the blade itself seemed to be tailor-made for him. Swish! Swish! The blade was so sharp that there were no afterimages at all. The form of darkness had fused perfectly with the blood-sucking land. Like a fish in water, it was much freer than on land. There was no resistance at all, and it had a greater propulsion force. It's so convenient, Lin Feng sighed emotionally. Although he had just obtained it and was unable to unleash all of Heitung's power and use all of his blade techniques perfectly, it had already far surpassed the devil-perishing blade. His battle prowess had increased by at least 30%. Here, Heitung's power had increased by 50%. Blood-sucking beast commander, I have nothing to fear. Lin Feng was full of confidence. With Black Viper in hand, he was absolutely confident that he could kill a blood-sucking beast commander with a single slash. With his saber speed and movement technique, no matter how many blood succubus commanders there were, they would not pose a threat to him. This was because they were unable to form an encirclement. Go practice your blade and let Heitung see some blood. Lin Feng was very satisfied. For a swordsman, the importance of a saber was undeniable. At present, Lin Feng wielded the black skeleton and was like a fish in water in the black forbidden land. Strangely enough, most of the beasts in this area were commanders. Although there were normal blood fishes, there weren't many of them. As for lords, he didn't see a single one. Chi! Chi! The battle blade black dragonfly streaked through the air as a black dragon condensed from pure dark light, bit down, and tore apart the body of a blood-sucking beast commander. Black dragonfly flickered as it absorbed the beast's blood, becoming even more dazzling. Blood slaughter. The Tao of Darkness. Heitung had been sealed for a long time. Today, he broke out of the ground and was extremely excited. The more he fought, the more courageous he became, carefree and unrestrained. Lin Feng also felt very comfortable. The feeling of being touched was something that the devil-perishing saber didn't have. His saber's almighty mastery had been stuck at 99%. Now, there were faint signs of a breakthrough. It was a hazy feeling, but he couldn't describe it. Soon, my saber's almighty mastery will break through. Comparable to a godly expert, Lin Feng was very clear. His bloodline was very strong, but the stronger it was, the deeper the shackles, and the harder it was to break through. Right now, his life force had just entered the godly level, but his battle strength had reached the peak of the godly level. If his saber technique was strengthened by another level, from the saber's almighty mastery to the heavenly Tao of saber, he was confident that he could match even godly experts. The saber's almighty mastery was the godly level. Previously, my battle strength should be around rank 20 on the Origin Awakening list. If I can perfectly control Black Tigress, my battle prowess should be comparable to Lord Tigress, who is ranked 18th on the Origin Awakening list. If we meet, it will be enough to fight. Lin Feng naturally knew that when he killed Magic Flute that day, it was equivalent to starting a battle with extreme fatality. Before Magic Flute died, he had already spread the news. In any faction, 9-star experts were rare. As the pillars supporting the faction, Fatal Limit had a total of 5 9-star experts. Now that he had killed one, it would be strange if they weren't angry. Fatal Limit's strongest was Poison Rose, who was rank 4 on the Origin Awakening list. Next was Master Chu, who was rank 18. He couldn't afford to offend Poison Rose, but Master Chu, he was completely unafraid. Wait until my saber's almighty mastery reaches the peak. Enough to kill Master Chu. Lin Feng's eyes burned. The saber black scorpion seemed to be infected by its master's fighting spirit, and became even more spirited. Rays of black light were like fireworks in the night sky, resplendent and beautiful, killing countless. From the perilous situation when he first entered the forbidden Black Land to the present, Lin Feng was already calm and collected. Now, it wasn't the blood python beast commander chasing after him, but he was the one hunting the blood python beast commander. Countless blood python horns fell into his pocket, and the saber black scorpion was covered in blood, completely recovering its former glory. The top-notch dark attribute saber fed on fresh blood. The more bloodthirsty it was, the stronger it was. As for the side effects of the madness, it wasn't worth mentioning to Lin Feng. His cultivation level was unparalleled, and he had the 10,000 origin mustard stone to protect his soul. His heart was as one, and he wouldn't be affected or changed at all. Even if it were the top 10 experts on the Origin Awakening list, they wouldn't be able to do better than Lin Feng. Maybe they were stronger, but they might not be able to adapt to the environment here. Even if they could adapt, they wouldn't have enough energy to fight for a long time. Moreover, there weren't many godly spirit experts who cultivated the dark attribute. Lin Feng was very special now. The enhancement of the environment not only increased his own strength, but it also strengthened the saber-black scorpion. Now, the saber-black scorpion's combat power was no less than that of a pinnacle true treasure. Lin Feng's combat power was greatly increased here. In addition, the source of the Holy Land provided endless dark energy, which was just enough to kill the blood python beast commander with one slash. Naturally, he was like a fish in water. There are pros and cons. Although the saber-black scorpion can change into thousands of forms and adapt perfectly, because of the uniqueness of the obsidian diamond itself, it's very difficult to carve other secret seals and secret techniques. It only has basic abilities. This was why the saber-black scorpion was only an outstanding true treasure and not a pinnacle true treasure. Otherwise, the saber-black scorpion could totally become a pinnacle true treasure. However, my saber technique is strong, and other secret seals and secret techniques are just icing on the cake for me. Of course, it's good to have them, but it's okay to not have them. Lin Feng's figure flashed as he cut through all obstacles. His saber-black scorpion drank the blood of countless blood python beast commanders. Suddenly, Lin Feng's eyes lit up and he slowed down. Chapter 2060. In front of him was a complicated area. The changes of the Tao of dark matter seemed to have stopped here. It was as if there was a palace in the center of the hurricane. Despite the changes outside, the palace remained motionless and stood firm. It was like the core. It was very special. The dark energy was so condensed that it could not be dispersed. It was huge and sacred. Lin Feng stepped into this area and felt as if he was stepping on solid ground. Lin Feng had a high level of understanding of the 6 paths of darkness. He was at the 3rd stage of great perfection and had analyzed all 100,000 origins. He could clearly sense the fluctuations of the Tao of dark matter outside. And this place was like a paradise. This forbidden black land is indeed different. Lin Feng vaguely understood that he should have arrived at the core of the forbidden black land. He slowly spread his aura and became more cautious. He was not afraid of other things, but he was afraid of a group of overlord bloodsucker beasts. If that happened, he would have nowhere to run. His strategy of trying his luck worked. He rushed around. Although he did not find the entrance, he found the core area. His aura detection was slightly hindered, but it was much smoother than outside. Outside, once his aura was released, it would be distorted by the Tao of dark matter and could not be maintained. But this place was different. It proved that this place was not affected by the Tao of dark matter. But the resistance was not small. The suppression of the area was quite strong. Let's go take a look. Lin Feng's eyes were like torches as he looked ahead. The pitch-black crystals in front of him were messy, like an ancient palace. This was the only place in the entire area that was connected. Lin Feng looked around. There were fur and fur scattered around. There was a fishy smell. The ground was wet, and there were remnants of bloodsucker beasts' aura. He had seen them before, but there were not many of them. But there were quite a lot of them here. They were scattered everywhere, and the fishy smell was even stronger. It was nauseating. It was like the smell of a snake shedding its skin. Could it be? Lin Feng thought to himself. He had already sensed the aura. He frowned slightly as he sensed the aura of many bloodsucker beasts. Most of them were ordinary bloodsucker beasts. There were also a few bloodsucker beast commanders. The closer he got, the wider the palace and the more auras he sensed. They were as numerous as locusts. This was more than 10 times the number of bloodsuckers that he had killed previously. It was as if he had stumbled into the lair of the bloodsuckers by accident. Could it be that the bloodsuckers are also divided into different tribes? Lin Feng wondered. More and more like it. There were at least tens of thousands of auras, and this was probably not all of them. After all, the detection range was limited. That's right. Therefore, this place is called the Blood Mantis Lair. Lin Feng nodded. Just like the Destiny race, there were many tribes in the Destiny realm. However, the Forbidden Black Land was close to the entrance of the cave, so the bloodsuckers shouldn't be that strong. There's a horde Lord blood-sucking beast. Lin Feng's heart trembled. This powerful aura came from the Blood Python Beast Overlord. The Lord of the Blood Python Beast was a high-level deity expert, and its strength was stable between 10th and 20th place on the Origin Awakener board. Their talents were extremely high. Take the blood-sucking beast commander, for example. They were generally able to match up to high-level deity-level experts. A powerful bloodsucker beast overlord could even rival a deity expert. It really is a tribe. Lin Feng felt a headache coming on. He couldn't advance, but it would be a pity to retreat. There were probably tens of thousands of bloodsuckers, and there was a Lord Bloodsucker overseeing them. It would be difficult for him to gain any advantage. However, he had come here with great difficulty, so he was reluctant to leave just like that. Generally speaking, a tribe would have some stockpiles. The treasures of the tribes in the Destiny realm were already quite good. The treasures in the Blood Mantis Lair were probably hundreds or thousands of times more valuable than those of the Destiny race. The treasures were right in front of him. It was just a matter of whether he had the ability to obtain them. Oh, Lin Feng frowned slightly. There were still two questions in his mind. This place does seem like a tribe. The number of ordinary bloodsuckers is more than 99%, but why are most of the bloodsuckers I encountered in the Forbidden Blackland commanders? Could it be that they have a rule that only commanders can go out to train? That doesn't seem right. Also, the Forbidden Blackland is not far from the Blood Mantis Lair. In the Destiny realm, a tribe like this should be relatively weak. How can such a weak tribe have so many bloodsuckers? There are tens of thousands of them. If that was the case, how many bloodsuckers would there be in the Blood Mantis Lair? It was hard to imagine. It seems like a tribe, but it's not. Lin Feng was even more curious. He wanted to find out more, but he was also a little worried. After all, with his current strength, he might not be able to win against a Lord Bloodsucker. Let's go a little further and see how it goes. Lin Feng was skilled and daring, so he continued forward. I can only sense one Lord Bloodsucker's aura. If it's just one, whoosh. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. He smiled bitterly. Just as he was thinking, he sensed the aura of a second Lord Bloodsucker. It was hard to tell how strong it was, but it was obviously much stronger than the Lord Bloodsucker. The third one, the fourth one. The deeper he went, the more Lord Bloodsuckers there were. Ta! Lin Feng stopped. He sensed the aura of 10 Lord Bloodsuckers. It was more than he expected. Once he was surrounded by 10 Lord Bloodsuckers, no matter how strong he was, he wouldn't be able to escape. Give up? Lin Feng gritted his teeth, but he couldn't bear to. It wasn't easy to explore this place. If he left just like that, wouldn't it mean that all his efforts would be in vain? But if he didn't give up, it would be dangerous, even death. Advance or retreat? Continue. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He was determined. If he gave up after encountering such a small obstacle, what was the point of coming to the Blood Mantis Lair? It was just 10 Lord Bloodsuckers. With his current strength, he wouldn't lose in a one-on-one battle. What was there to be afraid of? Moreover, his intuition told him that this wasn't a tribe. The Forbidden Blackland. Lin Feng murmured. He held the black lotus tighter. There was at least one thing he was sure of. Whether this was a Blood Mantis Lair or not, there would be benefits and treasures, even opportunities. Even though he knew there were dangers, he still chose to walk through them. Lin Feng's blood surged. Step by step, he approached the center of the lair hall. It's right in front. Lin Feng's eyes were like stars in the night sky. His body turned into a ray of flowing light. He passed by the blood mantis outside the hall, went through the passage, and entered the center of the lair hall. As he passed by, the angry roars of the blood mantis resounded in his ears. Lin Feng passed through layers of obstacles. His vision suddenly opened up. He seemed to have been completely released. Hua! Lin Feng entered the center of the lair hall. He held the black lotus and stood in the air. Everything was in his eyes. He was shocked. Chapter 2061. It was an endless blood-red quagmire, shrouded by a thin layer of black mist. It was majestic but hazy. Countless blood devourers were submerged in the black quagmire. Some revealed half of their bodies, some revealed only their heads. Some were bathed in black holy light, some were covered in a layer of black mist, and some had crystallized bodies, as if they had been petrified. The scene was very shocking. Tens of thousands of blood devourers were in front of him, so many that it made one's hair stand on end. Every one of them, even the weakest, had the strength of a 9-star expert. Roar! Roar! Thunderous roars came from outside the main hall of the lair, one after another. At this moment, the blood devourers in the hall looked over in shock and anger. They were blood-red and shrouded in endless darkness. There was even the wrath of the blood devourer lords. This was the forbidden area of the blood devourers. How could other races be allowed to enter? Understand. In a short moment, the entire main hall was in sight. Combined with what he had seen and guessed, all his questions were answered. Lin Feng spread out the warm wings and retreated rapidly while the space was in disorder. Since he had solved his doubts, there was no need to stay any longer. He could take his time to plan. Lin Feng was not so conceited that he could go head-to-head with tens of thousands of blood devourers. Just the aura of the 10 blood devourer lord alone was enough for him to defeat. Swoosh! Swoosh! The warm wings turned into 2 rays of black light. As they retreated from the main hall, they cut the ordinary blood devourers in half. Since Lin Feng was confident in entering, he was also confident in leaving. The 10 blood devourer lords were all deep in the main hall of the lair. From the time they reacted to the time they chased after him, there was enough time for him to leave. The main hall of the lair was located in the core area and could not be affected by the law of dark matter. However, it was different outside. Every area outside would be affected by the law of dark matter, suppressing the space and distorting it. Roar! Roar! The furious roars of the blood devourers seemed to be about to collapse the hall. It was a great humiliation for the blood devourers to have a human intrude into their forbidden area. A dense swarm of blood succubi rushed out of the main hall and chased after Lin Feng, including the 10 blood succubi horde lords. Every bloodsucker's eyes were bloodshot, filled with rage and madness. Lin Feng had caused the blood-sucking beasts to go berserk. Come! At this time, Lin Feng had already left the main hall of the lair. Hei Tung followed him like a shadow and killed countless blood devourers. Even a blood python commander could not withstand a single slash, let alone these ordinary blood pythons. They couldn't even delay Lin Feng for an instant. Step! Lin Feng stopped at the edge of the core area and sensed the constant changes of the law of dark matter outside. He watched as the hordes of blood succubi charged at him from the main hall of the lair. The black dragon in his hand glowed with black light. Power, accumulate, and accumulate more. Boom! Facing the mixed blood python commander and the ordinary blood python, Lin Feng's saber, which had been accumulating power for a long time, suddenly slashed down. It was as if a black dragon had swooped down from the sky and landed on the ground. Boom! Kill everything. The shocking power was like a bomb that exploded in the middle of the square, killing countless blood-devouring beasts. More anger. Lin Feng's eyes were filled with madness. The dark energy accumulated by the origin of the Holy Land was released endlessly. The power of the myriad obscurity heavenly saber was on full display. Every slash of the saber took the lives of dozens of blood-devouring beasts. Ha ha ha! Laughing loudly, Lin Feng's figure gradually became ghostly. With a swoosh, he left the core area and disappeared from the forbidden black land. Roar! A thunderous roar sounded. At the back of the army of blood-devouring beasts, a blood python commander with 3 black horns charged out. The blood-devouring beasts hurriedly opened up a path. The blood python commander roared furiously. But at this moment, Lin Feng had already fled. Roar! The blood python commander issued a military order. In an instant, the group of ordinary blood-devouring beasts and blood python commanders left the core area and went to different parts of the Forbidden Black Land. They would not let that human leave just like that. Come out and kill me. Only then will I have a chance to get the treasure. Lin Feng had already left the core area. His figure was like lightning, moving at the speed of light. The black skeleton trembled slightly, still unsatisfied. Leaving was easy, but going back was difficult. After all, Lin Feng did not know where to go. But he had no choice. If he did not leave, death would be his only option. Tens of thousands of blood-devouring beasts and 10 blood python commanders. No matter how abundant the treasure was, it was impossible to swallow them all. Since he could not defeat them with brute force, he could only use his wits. If I'm not wrong, that ancient lair should be the place where the blood-devouring beasts evolve. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. Everything he had seen before was clearly reflected in his eyes. The tens of thousands of blood-devouring beasts were either bathed in black holy light, shrouded in black mist, or crystallized. They were all in the process of evolution. Just like cultivation, it could be the first stage, the second stage, or the third stage. All the blood-devouring beasts were ordinary blood-devouring beasts. There were no blood python commanders or blood python commanders. The blood swamp should be the same as the calming heart lake. It has a special effect that can assist in evolution. As long as the ordinary blood-devouring beasts are strong enough, their bloodline can be improved and they can evolve. So the blood-devouring beasts I saw in the Forbidden Black Land were all blood python commanders and not ordinary blood-devouring beasts. These blood-sucking beast commanders have all just evolved. His doubts disappeared, including the blood-devouring beast's fur and the wet ground. They were all traces of ordinary blood-devouring beasts' evolution. This is not a tribe. A tribe cannot have so many blood-devouring beasts. This is a holy land for evolution. Although it was not a tribe, it was far better than a tribe. How precious was a holy land! In the Green Palm race's holy land, he had obtained the origin of the holy land and absorbed endless dark energy, greatly increasing his strength. That was only the origin awakening continent, one of the 5 declining races. But here, it was a prosperous race. The holy land of the blood-devouring beasts that was located in the void turbulence and had top talent and resources. The difference between the two was huge. Although he did not know what kind of treasures were in this ancient lair hall, there was no doubt that the treasures here were very precious, even more precious than the origin of the holy land. Therefore, before leaving, he had attacked with all his strength and angered the blood-devouring beasts. Only by making them leave the lair and chase him would he have a chance to obtain the treasures. Otherwise, with so many blood-devouring beasts and 10 blood python commanders in the lair hall, even if he went in and obtained the treasures, he would not be able to come out alive. There was no doubt that the duty of the 10 blood python commanders was to protect the Holy Land. A great opportunity. I must seize it. Lin Feng's fighting spirit was ignited. Chapter 2062. Although he had this idea in mind, it was not easy to actually execute it. First, he had to see if he had truly angered the blood-sucking beasts and caused them to leave the main hall to pursue him. Secondly, he had to see how many blood-sucking beasts were left in the main hall, especially the blood-sucking lords. Finally, it depended on luck. Although he was not confident, Lin Feng had already begun to try. At the very least, this was a profitable business. The more blood-sucking beasts there were in the Black Forbidden Land, the more blood-sucking horns he would obtain. Although the elementary blood-sucking horns were of little value, the intermediate blood-sucking horns were already very useful to him. Not to mention the advanced blood-sucking horns. Swish! Swish! After Black Tongue's descent, Lin Feng directly killed 2 ordinary blood python beasts and took 2 black, pure elementary blood python horns. The dark patterns on top of the horns contained an extraordinary dark energy aura. Apart from the change in essence, the 100,000 origin level is already very close to the intermediate blood-sucking horns. This one is the same. Lin Feng carefully inspected the two elementary blood-sucking horns. Even the same elementary blood-sucking horns had their own differences. For example, the ordinary blood-sucking beasts in the main hall of the main hall had already cultivated to their current bottleneck. They only needed to soak in the blood-colored mud to absorb the essence and wait for their bloodline to transform. Their elementary blood-sucking horns were naturally different from other elementary blood-sucking horns. Although the effect is not as good as the intermediate blood-sucking horns, there are more of them. Lin Feng swiftly killed another 3 ordinary blood-sucking beasts and took their elementary blood-sucking horns. How many blood-sucking beast commanders were there? It was far from being comparable to the ordinary blood-sucking beasts in the main hall of the main hall. There were tens of thousands of them. Blood-sucking beasts were extremely talented and had natural blood-sucking layers to cultivate in. Every blood-sucking beast would have 9 stars of strength as long as they grew up, and could reach the limit of ordinary blood-sucking beasts as long as they cultivated normally. Therefore, there were many blood-sucking beasts of this level, and they were all gathered in the Black Forbidden Land. It could be said that the Black Forbidden Land was the holy ground of blood-sucking beasts, the hub of their cultivation. But no matter how good the elementary blood-sucking horns are, they cannot compare to the advanced blood-sucking horns. Lin Feng was clear that at his current level of strength, the effects of the high-grade blood main horn far exceeded the low-grade blood main horn. In the blood python lair, the chances of encountering a blood python overlord were not high. However, there were 10 of them in the Forbidden Black Land. Moreover, their target was him. He was more than happy to have them come out to kill him. This is a good opportunity to test my current strength and see if I can beat a blood python beast lord one-on-one. Lin Feng was looking forward to it as well. If he only had the demon perishing blade, he wouldn't have been so confident. Now that he had Black Viper, however, things were different. If he couldn't even handle a blood python overlord one-on-one, then he might as well save his energy and forget about the blood python's sacred ground. 3 black horns. Each branch was taller and more ferocious than the last. They contained the bloodline of the blood-sucking beasts, and were a gift bestowed upon the blood-sucking beasts by the heavens. This was especially true for the high-grade blood-devouring horns, which were close to fully comprehending 100,000 origins. Lin Feng had only been away from the main hall of the lair for a few dozen days when he encountered his first Lord-level blood-sucking beast. Fight! Every Lord-level blood-sucking beast had the life rating of a high-grade God-tier expert. Their combat strength was at the peak of high-grade God-tier experts. However, combat strength was one aspect, and combat methods were another. Lord-level blood-sucking beasts were essentially the same as ordinary blood-sucking beasts. They didn't have armor like the Origin Awakened Continent experts, and only relied on their scales for defense. Compared to their offensive strength, they were undoubtedly inferior. Furthermore, Lord-level blood-sucking beasts weren't very intelligent, only slightly more intelligent than ordinary blood-sucking beasts. Blood-sucking beasts could only possess intelligence comparable to humans after transforming into kings. Impressive. Lin Feng dodged repeatedly. Even a famed monarch couldn't break his great Brahma domain, but it was hardly effective against Lord-level blood-sucking beasts. Lord-level blood-sucking beasts didn't know what a domain was and were completely unaffected. Their innate talent was too strong. In the Forbidden Black Land, the Dark Origins completely suppressed the Tao of Space. I'll just treat it as training my saber. Such an opponent isn't bad either. Having met his match, Lin Feng became more excited the more he fought. Both of them were strong in offense and weak in defense. Coincidentally, after the Devil Perishing Blade was swapped for Black Lotus, his blade proficiency realm was starting to loosen. He was just worried about not having an opponent to practice on. Neither of them could do anything to the other. They were evenly matched. This included prolonged battles. Lin Feng had the origin of the sacred grounds, but Lord-level blood-sucking beasts weren't any weaker. Their high-grade blood-sucking horns could automatically absorb the dark energy, giving them an absolute advantage. However, in terms of battle intent, fighting spirit, battle experience, and intelligence, Lord-level blood-sucking beasts were far inferior. It only relied on its instincts to fight. At the start, it was still a threat, but as the battle progressed, Lin Feng had already figured out its moves and was gradually at a disadvantage. When it started to get injured, the outcome of the battle was already decided. Boom! Lin Feng's blood-red eyes flashed, overflowing with killing intent. Lord-level blood-sucking beast's huge body fell to the ground. It twitched a few times before falling silent. Killed. Not easy. Lin Feng wiped the blood at the corner of his mouth. He was slightly injured. If it wasn't for Black Skeleton, it would have been difficult to win this battle. Lord-level blood-sucking beasts were stronger than expected. They were better at fighting than Lord-level blood-sucking beasts. They both relied on their instincts to fight, but on a different level. That's true. Lord-level blood-sucking beasts are different from Lord-level blood-sucking beasts. They all need to enter the blood-sucking grounds to hunt. Demonic runes flickered all over Lin Feng's body as the origin of the Holy Land absorbed the energy, rapidly restoring his yuan qi. His eyes flickered as he said, "Every blood succubus, from ordinary to overlord, has experienced countless battles. Their battle experience is naturally much more than lord-level blood-sucking beasts. Even though they both relied on their instincts, there would be differences in strength. The stronger the lord-level blood-sucking beast, the more battles it had experienced, and the stronger its battle strength." 9 more. Lin Feng heaved a long sigh of relief. The injuries he had suffered earlier had mostly recovered. He had found a total of 10 lord-level blood-sucking beasts. It would be best if he could defeat them one by one. Without lord-level blood-sucking beasts, the threat of the blood-sucking beasts would be greatly reduced. Activating slaughter mode. Even though the law of dark matter distorted space and prevented the lord-level blood-sucking beasts from finding Lin Feng's exact location, tens of thousands of lord-level blood-sucking beasts would still be able to find him. However, Lin Feng had benefited instead. Even lord-level blood-sucking beasts had died under Lin Feng's blade, let alone ordinary lord-level blood-sucking beasts. It was also because of the law of dark matter's distortion of space that the lord-level blood-sucking beasts didn't receive any news. Therefore, no matter how many of their kind died, the lord-level blood-sucking beasts still didn't know and continued to chase after Lin Feng. 10 years, 100 years, after chasing Lin Feng for 300 years, the lord-level blood-sucking beasts finally noticed something strange. Their numbers were getting smaller and smaller. Originally, there were tens of thousands of lord-level blood-sucking beasts, but now, only 1/10 of them were left. No matter how slow they were, they could still feel it. Under the lord-level blood-sucking beasts' endless anger, the lord-level blood-sucking beasts retreated to their lair and stopped chasing. They were too badly damaged. Chapter 2063. Much fewer, and most of the ones I've encountered in recent years are bloodsucker commanders. This doesn't look good. Lin Feng knew very well. He had been hunting for the past few hundred years and had killed tens of thousands of ordinary bloodsucker commanders. However, he knew that there were still many bloodsucker commanders in the lair hall. The most direct one was the bloodsucker commanders. He had killed 7 of them, and there were still 3 left. One of them was something he had failed to kill in a one-on-one duel. Looks like they've discovered me. Lin Feng also knew that it was only a matter of time before they were discovered. Although bloodsuckers were not very intelligent, they were not without intelligence. Even ordinary beasts knew how to avoid danger, let alone bloodsuckers. However, in a unique place like the Forbidden Black Grounds, there was basically no way for a bloodsucker to communicate with one another. Moreover, he had acted quickly and killed all the bloodsuckers he saw. Except that was an extremely powerful bloodsucker commander. Looks like it's the one behind this. Lin Feng shuddered inwardly. 30 years ago, when he fought it, it was injured and fled. He was not much better off and was unable to chase after it. After that battle, the number of bloodsuckers chasing after him had decreased sharply. However, it was not obvious at the time, but now it was clear. Those who should have retreated had retreated. Although the implementation of the plan is not perfect, at least we've achieved our goal. Lin Feng sighed. Not everything was going according to plan. At present, he had already achieved 90% of the plan. More than 90% of the bloodsuckers had died. However, with the remaining 10% gathered together, it was difficult to deal with. Let's go to the lair hall first. Over the past 300 years, Lin Feng had discovered a way to reach the lair hall. It was actually very simple. The other bloodsuckers knew how to reach the lair hall, which was where the Holy Land was located. This meant that there must be a way. Following the clues, Lin Feng quickly found the pattern. Although the law of dark matter constantly changed the location of space, as long as he moved towards the center, which was where the law of dark matter was most difficult to distort, he would be able to find a lair hall. Even the blood-sucking beast could sense it, let alone Lin Feng, whose Tao of dark matter had reached the third stage of great perfection. Including the location of the entrance, he had already found it 100 years ago. If he wanted to leave, he could leave at any time. In these 300 years of battle, not only had Lin Feng obtained countless blood alligator horns, he had also familiarized himself with the entire Black Forbidden Land. However, familiarity was one thing, and whether or not he could gain anything from the main hall of the lair was another. That place seemed to be where the enemy's army was gathered. Charging in alone was like charging into a tiger's den. But no matter what, seeing was believing. Only by personally investigating would he be able to get a clear understanding of the situation. 3 horde leaders. Lin Feng frowned slightly. Among them was a horde leader that he had failed to kill even after using all his strength. Just this obstacle alone was more difficult than ascending to the heavens. Furthermore, his plan had already been exposed. It was almost impossible to lure them out. Right now, he could only take one step at a time. Let's go take a look first. Lin Feng transformed into a beam of light and sped towards the main hall of the lair, where the Holy Land was located. It was time to turn defense into offense. The solemn and sacred main hall of the lair had stood for an unknown number of years. Here, the blood alligators had evolved into butterflies and undergone bloodline transformations, transforming from ordinary blood alligators to blood alligators. This was the Holy Land of the blood alligators, sacred and inviolable. Over the countless years, countless experts had entered the Black Forbidden Land. There were some who were extremely strong and had discovered this holy land of the blood alligators, but very few had made it out alive. This place was too dangerous, especially the main hall of the lair in the core area, where a large number of blood alligators gathered. Other experts couldn't wait to avoid it. Who would be as daring as Lin Feng to touch the holy land of the blood alligators? Treasure. Opportunity. Lin Feng once again stepped into the range of the Holy Land. His eyes sparkled with a trace of expectation and desire. After 300 years of planning, it was time to reel in the net. He didn't know where the treasure was hidden in the main hall of the lair, nor did he know what kind of treasure there was, but it was definitely there. If the Holy Land of the blood alligators didn't even have a treasure, wouldn't it be a joke? Even if I can't find the treasure, the blood-colored mud pool will be of great use. Lin Feng recalled what he had seen before. Tens of thousands of ordinary blood alligators were immersed in the blood-colored mud pool. Naturally, they weren't bathing, but absorbing the essence of their bloodline to transform and improve. He cultivated the great Tao of darkness, so the blood-colored mud pool might be of some help to him. However, he didn't know the specific effects yet. An opportunity was hard to come by. However, there was a harsh prerequisite: the blood alligators in the main hall of the lair. If he didn't eliminate them, no matter how good the opportunity was, it would just be an illusion. 300 years. Although the blood alligators in the main hall have suffered heavy losses, there shouldn't be much change. Lin Feng slowly moved forward, exploring the surroundings. 300 years was just a snap of a finger for the blood alligators, who had a long history. Moreover, they had sensed that their clansmen had been killed and had just retreated back to the main hall. The situation shouldn't be too bad. Even if I have to report to the Blood Alligator Beast King, I have to leave the Forbidden Black Land and head to the deepest part of the lair. I won't be able to return anytime soon. Lin Feng held Black Skeleton in his hand, his battle intent raging. Time. This was the best time. A great opportunity. Schwa, sensing the aura quickly and decisively, Lin Feng increased his speed and quickly sensed the presence of the first blood alligator beast. To him, the blood alligator beast was the real threat. No matter how many blood alligator beast commanders there were, as long as he kept a distance, he could kill them one by one. With the source of the Holy Land constantly replenishing his energy, dealing with them was just a matter of time. Only the blood alligator beast wasn't easy to deal with. The second one, Lin Feng's eyes deepened. The aura of the second blood alligator beast commander was extremely familiar. It was the blood alligator beast commander that he couldn't kill in a one-on-one duel. It was even stronger than him. That day, he was able to fight it as an equal was due to luck. After all, the blood alligator beast commander wasn't very intelligent. I'm very familiar with its moves. If we fight again, I still have a 50% chance of winning, but Lin Feng frowned slightly. Other than this powerful blood alligator beast commander, there were other blood alligator beast commanders in the main hall of the lair. As expected, there are 3. Lin Feng held his breath. He had already sensed the presence of the third blood alligator beast commander. Other than the powerful one, he had never encountered the other 2 blood alligator beast commanders before. 1 against 2, it would be difficult for him to win. 1 against 3, it would be harder than ascending to the heavens. Chapter 2064. Never encountered one before? Lin Feng's footsteps paused slightly. Yes, never encountered one before. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He had completely forgotten about this important part of the plan. Maybe there's a chance. I'll know once I give it a try. Lin Feng sped up. Dense, dark energy covered his entire body as demonic tattoos appeared. Black skeleton in his hand let out a resounding cry, forming a complete black dragon tattoo. Their auras combined perfectly. After 300 years of battle, Lin Feng had perfect control over Black Skeleton. Although he had yet to reach perfection in Blade's finality, he could already unleash 100% of Black Skeleton's power. His battle strength had steadily increased, and with the unique geographical advantage of the Black Forbidden Land, Lin Feng had been able to win against the Blood Python Beast Lords time and time again. 7 battles, 6 wins, and 1 draw. His battle record was impressive. One must know that those were Blood Python Beast Lords that were comparable to high-level God-level experts. Furthermore, this was their lair, their territory. Defeating a Blood Python Beast Lord was definitely not an easy task. Chi! Blood splattered everywhere. Lin Feng had no qualms about it. This time, he didn't directly enter the lair's main hall. Instead, he killed his way in. He didn't hide his aura. Lin Feng didn't care about being exposed because he was here to kill. In these 300 years, he had killed tens of thousands of blood python beasts. Now, it was time to harvest the last wave. Chi! Space was torn apart. Ordinary blood python beasts couldn't even get close to Lin Feng. His warm wings disrupted space, and then blade rays suddenly appeared, killing them at just the right time. 1 slash, 1 kill. He never missed. The blood python beasts attacked one after another, but they fell one after another. Blood dyed the Holy Land red. With bloodshot eyes, the blood python beasts were furious, but their sharp claws could not even get close to Lin Feng. The god of death had descended. Lin Feng's gaze focused. He walked unhurriedly toward the center of the lair's main hall, where the blood-colored mud pool was. His aura was firmly locked on to the 3 overlords, because they were his true opponents. They're here. The auras locked onto him. The 3 auras moved at almost the same time. Clearly, they had discovered him. Boom! The wings of warmth glowed brightly and turned into black energy ripples that repelled the surrounding blood devourers. Because Lin Feng had killed his way in, the blood-sucking beast attacks were all in front of him. Behind him, there was an empty space. The moment Lin Feng's warm wings released their power, he retreated backwards. There were no obstacles in his path of retreat. He wasn't so arrogant as to go head-to-head with 3 blood devourer lord-level lords, especially when one of them was as strong as him. In a 1-against-3 battle, it would be difficult for him to even escape, let alone win. The distance between them was instantly pulled apart. In the blink of an eye, Lin Feng had retreated to the edge of the main hall of the lair. He only needed to take a single step to reach the outer area where the law of dark matter was wreaking havoc. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Countless blood-colored beasts pounced over, but like moths to a flame, they were killed instantly. However, there were 3 huge blood devourers with 3 black horns on their foreheads. They were fearless. They charged out. Their auras were majestic, and their attack speed was astonishing. Pump. Lin Feng only defended and didn't attack. He withstood the huge impact and retreated out of the main hall of the lair. The surrounding law of dark matter changed, and his vision became hazy. Roar! A ferocious blood devourer Lord-level Lord bit at Lin Feng in a frenzy. Endless darkness shrouded the area. The blood devourer's horns emitted dense darkness as it attacked continuously. Waves of heavy pressure came, with a strong sense of devouring. This blood devourer Lord-level Lord was extremely proficient in the path of devouring and the path of darkness. Good timing. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. This blood devourer Lord-level Lord was the one that had severely injured him before. The other 2 Lord-level Lords that attacked him together with this blood devourer Lord-level Lord were nowhere to be seen. Although the law of dark matter affected the entire area and changed its position, the duration wasn't fixed. It could be a few seconds, a dozen seconds, or dozens of seconds. Naturally, it wouldn't distort and change in such a short period of time. Moreover, the spatial position of the change was very large. Therefore, the battle wouldn't be affected. The other 2 Lord-level blood devourer Lord-level Lords were nowhere to be seen because they didn't chase after him. As expected, Lin Feng was overjoyed. Previously, he had suspected that if the 2 Lord-level blood devourer Lord-level Lords really came out to hunt him down, there was no reason why he wouldn't run into them unless his luck was really that good. However, it was possible to run into one of them. It would be too much of a coincidence if he didn't run into either of them. The greater possibility was that they didn't come out at all. Instead, they were guarding the main hall of the lair. Everyone had their own duties. The 10 Lord-level blood devourer Lord-level Lords should have their own duties. If all 10 Lord-level blood devourer Lord-level Lords could leave the main hall of the lair without permission, wouldn't the main hall's defenses be empty? Therefore, the reason why the 2 Lord-level blood devourer Lord-level Lords didn't chase after him was obvious. Very good. Lin Feng once again faced the Lord-level blood devourer Lord-level Lord that had severely injured him. His battle intent was high. He saw an opportunity. What he was afraid of was that the 3 blood succubus lords would move together, advancing and retreating as one. If that happened, he would have no hope at all. However, the situation was completely different now that the Lord-level bloodsucker beast was moving separately from the other 2. The first time he fought with it, they were evenly matched. Naturally, he would be able to do the same this time. In fact, his chances of winning would be even higher. You must kill it. Lin Feng's attack instantly became sharp as he spared no effort. The blood python was not without intelligence. The blood python lord's intelligence was comparable to that of a human child. The reason it chased after him and tried to kill him was because they were evenly matched that day, and neither of them could do anything to the other. Now that its injuries were fully healed, it wished it could tear itself into pieces to avenge itself. However, if he couldn't kill it this time and let it escape, it would be hard to say if he could lure it out of the lair next time. There was only one chance. Hey Tongue! Lin Feng exploded. Having fought with it before, Lin Feng clearly knew its moves. From the very beginning, he went all out to control the situation. Despite the many injuries on its body, the Lord-level bloodsucker beast wasn't much better off. Defense had always been the blood python's weakness. In comparison, Lin Feng's defense was no longer a weakness. Moreover, his recovery ability was even stronger. Die! The Hei Tong attacked furiously. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly as he attacked again and again. His battle strength had reached its peak. Perhaps in terms of strength, he was evenly matched with the Lord-level bloodsucker beast, but when 2 enemies meet on a narrow path, the courageous would emerge victorious. From the very beginning, Lin Feng's fighting spirit and aura completely overwhelmed the Lord-level bloodsucker beast. His will and determination to win was even more overwhelming. Boom! Lin Feng's body was bathed in blood. He looked like a demonic god who had descended to earth, but he was still heavily injured by the Lord-level bloodsucker beast. However, he was still alive. The Lord-level bloodsucker beast that had previously injured him had now become a corpse and was no longer breathing. There are two more. Lin Feng's fighting spirit surged as his eyes glistened with blood. Chapter 2065. Strike while the iron is hot. After swallowing the heaven and earth fruit, the origin of the Holy Land quickly replenished his energy and healed his body. Although he couldn't recover to 100% in a short time, Lin Feng didn't want to wait any longer. He was now in his peak state for battle. Lin Feng was in an incomparably heated state as he battled the blood python beast lord whose strength was on par with his own. Everyone had this kind of state. They felt that no matter what they did, they would be able to succeed. It was as easy as pie. It was the same for warriors. When they used their moves, the rhythm of their attacks was perfect. Their combat power was at least 20% higher than normal. It was enough to make up for the effects of the injuries. Whoosh! Lin Feng once again entered the main hall of the lair as fast as he could. It didn't take him long. After all, he had just left. Although the law of dark matter had changed the area, it was only a distortion and not an earth-shattering change. Boom! Boom! Black Skeleton opened a path. All the blood pythons in his way were slaughtered. At this moment, Lin Feng was killing anyone in his way. He was bathed in blood, like a demon god descending to earth. The blood pythons surrounded him crazily, but there was fear in their eyes. It was their instinct to protect the Holy Land. Fear was also their instinct. They were completely terrified by this human in front of them. Boom! Lin Feng's saber was merciless. Black Skeleton drank the blood, and the light became even more dazzling. The black dragon on the saber seemed to come alive. It was the finishing touch, and it fit perfectly with the body. Lin Feng didn't even need to use it deliberately. Black Skeleton could already drive the attack. It was a top-notch, outstanding, true treasure. Here, Black Skeleton's power wasn't inferior to a pinnacle true treasure. Here it comes. Lin Feng spread his warm wings. With a bang, the surrounding space became chaotic. As he broke through the group of blood pythons, he welcomed his final two opponents. Two blood python horde leaders with powerful auras and brutal auras. Shua. One of them was ghostly and disappeared from the spot. It was proficient in the law of dark matter. The other one's eyes were blood red, and its body was dyed in blood. In the blink of an eye, its power and speed increased dramatically. The law of dark demon. Lin Feng was the clearest. Almost at the same time, the color of blood rose in his eyes. He became even crazier and more overbearing. He was also most proficient in the Dark Devil Dao. He had gone mad for being possessed by the devil. Pung! Pung! Hei Tang launched an endless barrage of attacks. Lin Feng's dark devil patterns flickered, and the great Brahma domain rippled out layer by layer. Lin Feng didn't need to warm up at all, and his attack power instantly reached its peak. His condition was excellent. As soon as they exchanged blows, Lin Feng knew that these two blood mammoths were terrifyingly strong, in no way inferior to the blood mammoths he had just killed. The only difference was that each of them specialized in different aspects. Logically speaking, he had no chance of winning against the two of them. However, battles were ever-changing, and there would never be a single pattern. Furthermore, at this moment, he had no way out. Bang! At the same time that Lin Feng repelled the blood python beast lord that was proficient in the Dark Devil Dao, his body moved to the side almost impossibly, and he directly dodged Shui Li's claw attack from behind. The blood python beast lord's furious roar resounded in his ears. Lin Feng turned around and slashed with his blade. The 10,000 obscuring heavenly blade turned to dust. The first move. Its power was the most ordinary move. However, at the same time, its attack speed was also the fastest. Hei Tang was even more perfect, raising his attack speed to the limit. The moment he was conscious, the attack had already arrived. At the same time that he dodged, The dark energy provided by the origin of the Holy Land surged out. This move was flawless and impeccable. Boom! Lin Feng's blade directly injured the blood python beast lord that had ambushed him. Behind him, the other blood python beast lord roared furiously. Lin Feng didn't care at all. His battle intent had reached the limit, and he clearly understood the current situation. There weren't many chances. If he fought these two blood python beast lords under normal circumstances, he would probably lose 100 battles. In a dangerous situation, the only way was to take risks. Die! Lin Feng's consciousness and attack erupted at the same time. His eyes lit up, and a wisp of soul energy directly landed on the injured blood python beast lord. The blood python beast lord that was about to use the law of dark matter trembled and blocked the attack for an instant. In that instant, it was already fatal. Tears of chaos. Lin Feng's attack arrived at the same time. In terms of speed, it wasn't as fast as the ashes, and in terms of power, it wasn't as heavy as the boundless heavenly blade. However, the speed and power of the attack were a perfect combination. The black dragon bit down, and the sky seemed to be crying. Endless dark energy tore and annihilated. The blood python beast lord that was good at flexible attacks was killed in one strike. It was tragic, and its unwilling roar resounded throughout the blood python lair. Chi! Behind Lin Feng, the terrifying attack had arrived. It was unavoidable. Pong! The completely black Missouri Shin boat appeared and blocked the attack of the frenzied blood python beast. The defense of the outstanding true treasure was undoubtedly on display at this moment. Even without Lin Feng's control, the blood python beast attack was greatly weakened. However, the Mo Shin boat might be able to defend against ordinary 9-star experts. But this time, it was facing a blood python beast lord that was extremely powerful. In the blood python lair, it was close to the level of a deity. This move still landed squarely on Lin Feng's body. At the last moment, 3 pairs of black wings wrapped around his body, and Lin Feng used the last bit of strength left in his attack to display Warm Wing's protection. Pong! It was as heavy as 1,000 caddies, and its power was overwhelming. The full-force attack of a blood python beast lord was terrifying. Lin Feng almost used his physical body to take this move. His body shook violently, and blood flowed out of his 7 orifices. Lin Feng's mind went blank. His internal organs shook violently, and he was instantly sent flying. Leave? At this moment, Lin Feng didn't have the thought of running away at all. At this point in the battle, his blood was boiling. Logically speaking, the best thing to do now was to leave and recover from his injuries. Of the 3 blood python beast lords, only one was left. He couldn't do anything alone. When he recovered from his injuries, he would come to the lair hall. By then, there would only be 1 blood python beast lord left. How could stop him? It could be said to be a piece of cake. However, Lin Feng didn't want to leave. Love duck. The moment he was repelled, Lin Feng performed a defensive saber move. Another fruit of heaven and earth entered his stomach. Lin Feng's eyes were full of fighting spirit. He was very satisfied with his current state. It had been a long time since he was in such a state. It was the feeling of being forced into a desperate situation. At this moment, he had almost touched the barrier of Saber's End. He could clearly see the line leading to 100% Saber's End. The distance was extremely close. His body moved according to his will. Subconsciously, the same path of dark demon collided with each other. Lin Feng turned around. Countless practice and performance erupted at this moment. Dong! 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 It sounds like a heartbeat. At the moment of destruction, under the dark demon state, Lin Feng, who had reached his limit and was seriously injured, suddenly used his saber move. It was terrifying beyond compare. Sabers end 100%. The 5th move of the 1,000 obscuring heavenly saber, 1,000 obscuring ultimate. Boom! Chapter 2066. Did I win? Lin Feng held the black skeleton in his hand. His armor was stained with blood. It was hard to tell if it was his own or the blood of the bloodsuckers. Beneath his feet, a blood succubus overlord was no longer breathing. It could not be any more dead. Lin Feng was exhausted from the intense pain all over his body. Although he had killed 2 bloodsucker leaders, he was not in a good state either. The 3 consecutive battles had exhausted all his energy. It should be known that he had no confidence in defeating any of the 3 blood wyvern beast lords individually. But this time, it was 1 against 3. He had turned the impossible into the possible and killed all 3 blood wyvern beast lords. Although he had paid a huge price, he had succeeded. I really won. Lin Feng revealed a weak smile. Although there were still thousands of ordinary bloodsucker leaders and bloodsucker leaders in the main hall, they were not a threat without a leader. Even if he was in a weakened state, he could still kill them easily. The speed of recovery was much faster than the consumption. Boom, 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 in one go. Lin Feng didn't want to waste any time. Since he had the ability to kill them, there was no need to waste any more time. No one knew what would happen in the next moment. As the fruits of heaven and earth entered his stomach and repaired his body, Lin Feng strengthened his spirit and activated his killing mode. Unstoppable. One by one, the bloodsuckers rushed out to die. None of them ran away, because this was their sacred ground. Their instinct was to protect the sacred ground. They would not complain even if they died. Blood covered the entire sacred ground. The blood-colored mud became even more terrifying. The entire main hall was filled with bloodsucker corpses. Just collecting them would take a lot of time. Lin Feng stood resolutely with his blade in hand. His face was pale. He had exhausted all his energy. His spirit was almost at its limit. If not for his strong soul, he would have fainted. But at this moment, Lin Feng was very excited and happy. Because he had won. With his own strength, he had taken down the sacred ground of the bloodsucker beasts. It was almost impossible. Thinking back to when he first entered the forbidden Blackland, Lin Feng was still shocked. This was no doubt a miracle. But he had won. Tens of thousands of bloodsuckers, including 10 bloodsucker lords, had all been killed. Now, the entire forbidden Blackland belonged to him. This included his saber techniques. He had also taken the final step, increasing his mastery of the all-about saber from 99% to 100%. This 1% had held him back for far too long. Rather than saying that it was a last-minute breakthrough, it would be better to say that it was a result of his accumulation. Even without this battle, it was only a matter of time before he took this step. When the conditions were right, success would come naturally. In that state, Lin Feng had absolute confidence that he would win even if he didn't have the last 1% of metamorphosis. As soon as this fierce battle began, they had already entered the state and rhythm. The final 1 versus 2 battle was partly due to luck, but more of it was a reflection of strength. The blood-sucking beast wanted to launch a sneak attack on Lin Feng, but he did not know that Lin Feng's 100,000 reciprocity cultivation was no weaker than his. In particular, when he was in peak condition, he could sense every single movement of the blood-sucking beast with the laws of dark matter. If they fought head-on, they might still be wary of it. However, if a sneak attack failed, it would often backfire. Status. This was the foundation of winning this battle. Just like the acceleration of a 100-meter race, there was a process of acceleration from the start to the highest speed. The 2 blood python, lord-level blood python beasts were the same. However, Lin Feng, who had just crossed paths with them, had already reached the highest speed. This difference directly caused the 2 sides to be unequal in strength at the start of the battle, even if they were close in strength. If the 2 blood-sucking beast lords could hold their ground, Lin Feng would definitely lose in a 2 versus 1 battle. However, they did not last past the beginning and were too impatient for success. Instead, they fell into Lin Feng's rhythm and returned in miserable defeat. In the end, they lacked intelligence. In terms of ability to judge the situation and control the battle, there was a huge difference between the blood-sucking beast lords and Origin Awakener rankers. It was reasonable for him to be defeated and die. If I tell others, probably no one will believe me. Lin Feng overlooked the entire hall, slowly recovering his strength. He was in no hurry to search for treasures, just in case there were other blood-sucking beasts or blood-sucking beast lords. Strength was the foundation of a foothold. With enough strength, one could preserve one's life and obtain many fortuitous opportunities. Tens of thousands of blood-sucking beasts. Lin Feng sighed. Just the 10 high-grade blood-sucking horns were enough to give him a great harvest. The value of each horn was no less than the blood-sucking origin heart he had obtained earlier. The blood-sucking origin heart was very pure and had a strong absorption ability, so was very valuable. Although the high-grade blood-sucking horns were not very pure and had a weak absorption ability, they were of a higher level and contained more energy than the blood-sucking origin heart. Not to mention, there were also thousands of mid-grade blood-sucking horns and tens of thousands of low-grade blood-sucking horns. The number was too great. This time, I have to thank Shizhen. Lin Feng smiled. Without him leading the way, how could he have obtained such a good opportunity? Outside the blood-sucking nest. Scram. All of you scram. A boundless evil aura spread out. It was a demonic hybrid demon expert that looked like a skeleton. On his forehead was a half-moon skull imprint. At this moment, the imprint was fused with a black light, appearing lofty. He was ranked 18th on the Origin Awakening list. Master Chu. Extreme Fatality's second in command, his strength second only to Poison Rose. Master Chu's position was not only supreme in extreme fatality, he was only second to one person. His strength had also been polished by countless eras and was extremely tyrannical. He had entered the chaotic void more times than Dongwang. Bang! The black fog dispersed, revealing Master Chu's bright eyes that were filled with darkness and hatred. You want to stop me with a mere illusion? Master Chu stepped on the countless broken bones under his feet, making unpleasant cracking sounds. He grinded his sharp fangs and snorted coldly. Among the 7 forbidden lands of the void, the blood-sucking nest is the most suitable for me. I'm finally in. Master Chu smiled coldly. The demon race was naturally proficient in the Tao of Darkness, so they naturally liked an environment like the blood-sucking nest. However, the blood-sucking nest would only open once every 10 reincarnations, and there were only 7 blood-sucking tokens. It was too difficult to enter. You kill my second brother, Demonic Blade King. You really have guts. Master Chu stepped forward, his hatred and killing intent spreading out. If you had escaped to the meteorite chaotic void, it might have been difficult for me to kill you. But to escape to the blood-sucking nest, there is no door to hell, but you have to barge in. Master Chu's hand flashed, and he took out the blood-sucking token and embedded it in the dark crimson depression. His eyes were cold and somewhat unhappy. The last one? These bastards sure are fast. Schwa. Suddenly, a black light descended, and the blood-sucking beast's roar resounded in the void. The bloody light sparkled, and Master Chu's body disappeared into the thin blood fog. At this time, in the dark crimson depression, the 7 blood-sucking tokens emitted a dazzling light at the same time, and then disappeared. The entrance of the blood-sucking nest was sealed. Chapter 2067. Phew! Lin Feng let out a long sigh of relief. Clenching his fists and moving his head, the dark patterns on his body dissipated like the tide. Lin Feng's eyes flashed and returned to normal. I've recovered about 90%. His body recovered relatively quickly. However, his mind and soul needed time to recover. But for Lin Feng, who had the 10,000 origin mustard stone and an extremely powerful soul, this was not difficult. It was just that it would take a while. There shouldn't be any more bloodsuckers. Lin Feng circled around the bloody swamp and patrolled the main hall several times. After confirming that all the bloodsuckers had been killed, he also dealt with the corpses and harvested all the bloodsucker horns. Annihilate. Lin Feng quickly cleaned up the surroundings. Apart from the faint smell of blood, the main hall was no different from before. The bloody swamp emitted a thin layer of bloody mist. The entire hall was like a palace of darkness, immersing one's heart. For experts who cultivated the Tao of Darkness, this was definitely a holy land. The pure dark energy here is dozens of times more than the Forbidden Black Land. Lin Feng sighed. The dark energy in the Forbidden Black Land far surpassed the Bloodsucker Lair. The Bloodsucker Lair itself was the essence of the Bloodsucker Lair. From this, one could see how special the main hall was. However, Lin Feng was not very interested in this kind of pure accumulation. What he hoped to achieve was a qualitative transformation. The 6 paths of darkness realm. As long as any of my Tao of darkness can reach the 100,000 level, my strength will greatly increase. Lin Feng frowned slightly. The reality was somewhat beyond his expectations. He had already patrolled the main hall many times, but he had not found any treasures. It was just a sacred hall, and there was nothing else. Only the bloody swamp. Lin Feng pursed his lips. Although he did not want to admit it, his senses could not be wrong. Moreover, he had personally verified that there were no special treasures here. That's right. After all, this is only the outer region of the bloodsucker lair, and it exists to help ordinary bloodsuckers transform. It is normal that there are no treasures here. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Lin Feng smiled bitterly. Ever since he entered the turbulent void, he had heard too much about treasures everywhere in the turbulent void. However, his first impression was the strongest. In the first place, the land of Bloody Marrows was a void danger zone that produced the least amount of treasures. The main hall of the lair was completely empty. If there were treasures, they would be able to spot them at a glance. Forget it. At the very least, I've perfected my blade's end realm for the past 300 years. Moreover, I've already obtained so many blood alligator horns. My bowl is already overflowing. There's no need to ask for more. Lin Feng smiled. His expectations were too high. In terms of normal gains, he had already earned a lot. If he were to sell all of these blood raven horns, he would be able to earn at least 100 billion void crystals. It was better than 10 ordinary outstanding true treasures. How many Origin Awakened Continents experts had entered the chaotic void space no less than 10 times, yet they still could not earn so much. This was only his first time here, and he had already gained so much. It was already commendable. Besides, there's still this. Lin Feng looked at the blood-colored quagmire curiously. What was the use of this sacred pond that could evolve ordinary blood devourers? How could it be of any help to him? I'll know once I try. Lin Feng was skilled and daring. He directly jumped into the quagmire. His body sank into the blood-colored quagmire. Instantly, the dark mageweth lit up and had the most direct reaction. Streams of pure energy passed through the dark mageweth and seeped into his body. The source of the Holy Land was extremely excited. The energy in the blood-colored quagmire surged in from all directions at an astonishing speed. The absorption speed far exceeded that of ordinary blood devourers. It's really to improve bloodline. Lin Feng was not surprised. To be able to transform ordinary blood devourers into blood devourers commanders, the energy in the blood-colored quagmire was obviously to improve the bloodline level. However, this was not very useful to him. This was because his dark mageweth was already at the 4th stage. The bloodline level was quite high. If the dark mageweth was at the 3rd stage like the light mageweth, the existence of this blood-colored quagmire would undoubtedly be a timely help. However, it was just icing on the cake. His strength would not have any earth-shattering changes. After all, the energy needed to improve the bloodline from the 4th to the 5th stage was too huge. Even if he absorbed all the energy in the blood-colored quagmire, it would not be enough. How powerful could the bloodline energy be to transform ordinary blood devourers into blood devourers commanders? Moreover, the transformation required a lot of time. This proved that the amount of bloodline energy in the blood-colored quagmire was not much in terms of individual units. It was just that its surface area was large, so it accumulated a lot. There should be something similar to the source of the Holy Land. Lin Feng spread out his aura. This blood-colored quagmire had obviously existed for more than a day or two. The amount of energy it contained was not enough to transform tens of thousands of ordinary blood devourers into blood devourers commanders at once. Obviously, the blood-colored quagmire had recovery abilities. It could recover bit by bit when its energy was depleted. Therefore, it could continuously provide energy to the blood devourers. This was very important. My aura detection is not complete. Lin Feng soon realized that his aura could not spread out. The obstruction of the blood-colored quagmire was quite great. After probing for a while, Lin Feng immediately prepared to dive down to find the source. Although he could not sense the exact location of the energy source, it was obviously not above. Since it was not above, then it was most likely at the bottom of the quagmire. The resistance is so strong. Rapidly descending, Lin Feng soon felt the obstruction. Layers of pressure suffocated him. It was pure darkness energy, an existence similar to water pressure. The blood devourer layer was naturally formed. The power of nature was quite terrifying. Even though Lin Feng had the battle strength of a high-level deity, he found it increasingly difficult. The darkness energy was being devoured bit by bit. Even the wings of warmth could not display its power. This enormous abyss was like a giant beast devouring energy. If you were weak, it would be stronger. The further down he went, the greater the resistance. The heavenly might was endless. There must be something. Lin Feng was even more interested. The harder it was to obtain, the more precious it was. If even he could not dive down, the other Blood Devourer commanders would naturally not be able to do so, no matter how strong they were. Perhaps only the Blood Devourer Beast King, who had broken through to the deity level and comprehended 100,000 Daos of the origin, could break through the shackles and dive to the bottom of the quagmire. However, it was probably not through forcefully breaking through. Instead, it was through merging with the quagmire. Lin Feng already had some understanding of 100,000 Daos of the origin. As a result, he knew the method to reach the bottom of the quagmire very well. Do I have to break through to 100,000 Daos of origin with one of the laws of darkness? Lin Feng was rather troubled. It was not that he did not want to, but he was still very far away from reaching 100,000 Daos of origin as a third realm great perfection. But what else could he do? Give up just like that? Chapter 2068. No, Lin Feng would not give up no matter what. He had been in the Forbidden Black Land for 300 years and had finally cleared out the main hall of the nest with great difficulty. If he could not unearth the secrets of the temple and obtain some benefits, he would not be satisfied. Wouldn't this mean that everything he had done before was in vain? There must be a way. Lin Feng began to try other methods. Apart from the Tao of Darkness, he had many other abilities and treasures, such as the Dragon Boat, the fusion of light and darkness, the 10,000 obscuring heavenly blade, and so on. He had to find one of the possibilities. Even if it doesn't work, I might as well cultivate in the sacred land. While absorbing the bloodline energy, I can comprehend the 100,000 Daos of origin. Once I comprehend 100,000 Daos of origin and fuse them with the Tao of Darkness, I will be able to enter the depths of the blood-colored quagmire and search for its mysteries. At the very least, comprehending 100,000 Daos of origin in the sacred land will yield twice the results with half the effort. Lin Feng had already prepared for the worst. No matter what, he would not give up like this. A man had to walk down the path he had decided on. Since it was an opportunity, he had to grasp it well. No. Failure. Still no. Lin Feng tried all sorts of methods. Even his strongest blade technique, the 10,000 obscuring heavenly blade, was not enough. The resistance in the depths of the blood-colored quagmire was too great, and his attacks would be absorbed, forming an even greater resistance. Again and again, Lin Feng was also undaunted, constantly trying. But at most, he had sunk less than 1,000,000 li, which was still very far from the depths of the blood-colored quagmire. From the fluctuations of 100,000 Daos of origin, he could faintly sense that the distance to the bottom of the quagmire was at least billions of li. Forcefully breaking through definitely won't work. Even the experts in the top 10 of the Origin Awakener list, whose attacks are 10 times or even 100 times stronger than mine, can only sink another 10 million li at most. Reaching 100 million li is already not bad, and this is not even taking into account the increased resistance. Lin Feng shook his head. The difference between 10 million li and billions of li was too great. From the looks of it, there was only one way to enter the depths of the blood-colored quagmire, and that was to comprehend 100,000 Daos of origin and fuse with them, becoming a part of the quagmire. As for other methods, wait. There's still a method that I haven't tried. Lin Feng suddenly. Light. The great Tao of light was the complete opposite of darkness. Indeed, there was no light here, but he already had a complete light source in his body and could continuously produce light energy. Although he couldn't use the environment, he could still make a breakthrough. The resistance of the blood mud abyss is one of the reasons why it exists. The other reason is to turn external forces into one's own. But they can't assimilate light energy. Lin Feng's heart trembled, but his eyes suddenly lit up. Light and darkness were opposites to begin with. Putting away hate tongue, Xiao Chun controlled the dark rune to disappear. The light rune that had been suppressed in the bloody grave slowly lit up. It was only the third stage of the light rune. Compared to the fourth stage of the dark rune, there was a huge difference in power. However, the Crimson Mire itself didn't have the ability to actively attack. It was just like the sea. You would only feel the water pressure when you were sinking. When you couldn't bear it anymore, you would float up and the water pressure would naturally weaken until it reached a level that you could bear. Chi! Lin Feng sank. The light energy cut through the thistles and thorns, directly breaking through the obstruction of the blood-colored mud, greatly reducing the resistance. So it's like that. Lin Feng was delighted. Without the power to assimilate, the blood mud abyss was only left with its own resistance. Instantly, it became much easier. Lin Feng was extremely fast. The light energy quickly surged out, and the light rune shone brightly. 5 million miles, 10 million miles, 20 million miles. The effect was much better than before. However, when he reached 27 million miles, Lin Feng couldn't dive any deeper. The light energy has been used up. Lin Feng was helpless. It wasn't really used up, but the speed of replenishment couldn't keep up with the speed of consumption. Therefore, it stopped for a while. Seems like it still won't work. 27 million miles was only 1% of the depth of billions of miles. The deeper he went, the greater the obstruction. The light rune was only at the third stage. Firstly, it didn't have the geographical advantage. Secondly, it didn't have a core like the Holy Land origin. The speed of recovery was very slow. Right? I can try the path of light. The 6 paths of light were all good at different things. For example, the path of light was good at speed. The path of light was good at control. The path of light was also known as the path of divinity. It had a natural restraining effect on the path of darkness. Here, the path of light won't actually increase the speed. Lin Feng tried to use the path of light to open a path. Instantly, his eyes lit up. It was as if the treasured sword had become much sharper. It easily cut through the Jin Ji. The efficiency was greatly improved. As expected, the path of divinity is the best here. Lin Feng smiled. There wasn't much difference between his control of the path of light and the path of light. Their aptitudes and talents were similar. They were both excellent and better than the other 4 paths. Their recovery speed was the fastest, at least 10 times more efficient. Lin Feng dived again. The increase in efficiency also meant that the speed of light energy consumption was once again slower than the speed of recovery. Without stopping, Lin Feng's speed suddenly increased. However, the resistance below was still increasing, layer after layer of obstacles. 50 million miles, 70 million miles, 90 million miles. When he was close to 100 million miles, Lin Feng once again felt the pressure and obstacles. It was difficult to move forward. Once again, he reached a bottleneck. No matter how strong the path of divinity's restraint on the path of darkness, it couldn't withstand the resistance itself. Lin Feng's recovery speed couldn't keep up with the speed of consumption. He had to stop. Not even 1/10. Lin Feng felt troubled. However, since he had decided to take this path, he wouldn't turn back. Even if it was a foolish old man moving a mountain, there would at least be an end. It was useless to think so much. Let's go first. Cultivate, recover, and move forward. When the light energy was exhausted, he would stop to rest and cultivate. He would recover his energy and move forward again. Lin Feng wasn't alone. The darkness origin in the depths of the blood-colored mire was abnormally powerful. Here, he could clearly sense 100,000 origins. One origin point after another constantly combined and connected. Not only was there a clear path of darkness and rich darkness origin here, but Lin Feng also had countless blood lotus horns on his body. He absorbed them for cultivation, fused them for his own use, absorbed them again, and cultivated again. Bit by bit, Lin Feng went deeper and deeper. From 100 million miles to 200 million miles, 200 million miles to 500 million miles, 1 billion miles. Even water droplets could penetrate stone. Lin Feng was extremely patient. Several decades passed like a day. He had already made up his mind. Even if the resistance was so great that the path of light would take a huge amount of time, at least the 100,000 origins he had comprehended would increase. Of the two methods, one would definitely work. I'll definitely succeed. Lin Feng's conviction never wavered. He had to know the secrets of the main hall of the lair and the blood-colored mire. His trip couldn't be in vain. Chapter 2069. The first 1 billion li did not take much time. In less than 100 years, he had completed it. But from 1 billion li to 2 billion li, the resistance increased and more time was needed. After 700 years, Lin Feng had only reached 2 billion li. 2 billion li, if there was no resistance, Lin Feng could reach it in the blink of an eye. But now, he had to take one step after another, and it was extremely difficult. Soon, Lin Feng could faintly feel that he was about to reach the bottom. The aura could not be detected, and it was purely intuition. There was also a connection of 100,000 origin fluctuations. After 700 years of hard work, Lin Feng had already completely refined and absorbed 10 high-grade blood-devouring horns. But it was a pity that every high-grade blood-devouring horn was different. Some were of the Tao of darkness, some were of the Tao of dark matter, and some were of the Tao of darkness. Otherwise, if he absorbed and refined 10 high-grade blood-devouring horns of the same Tao of darkness, even if he could not comprehend 100,000 origin Taos, it would be close. High-grade blood-devouring horns are very useful to me. Middle grade and elementary grade, the effect is much worse. This time, after leaving the Forbidden Black Land, I could try to hunt blood-devouring beast lords and obtain more high-grade blood-devouring horns. Lin Feng had a preliminary idea. With his current strength, in a one-on-one situation, he could hunt more than 90% of the blood-devouring beast lords. Even if he encountered an undefeatable one, he was confident that he could escape. It could be said that as long as he was not surrounded, the blood-devouring lair would not be much of a threat to him. But blood-devouring beast lords were different from ordinary blood-devouring beasts. It was not easy to encounter one. In the words of Origin Awakening Continent, every blood-devouring beast lord was comparable to a formidable person. But because the Forbidden Black Land was special, he could encounter 10 blood-devouring beast lords at once. Going out, it will be difficult. I'll think about this later. The most important thing now is to explore the secrets of the blood-colored mud. Soon, I will reach the bottom. Even though he had been diving for close to 1,000 years, he still did not find anything. But Lin Feng was still persevering, full of confidence. Meteorite chaotic void danger zone. Countless meteors fell. This was the core and deepest region of the chaotic void space. Not only was it the largest danger zone with the strongest magnetic field, but it was also the region with the longest history and the most energy. The total area of the other 6 forbidden lands was less than half of the heavenly meteorite turbulent flow. Countless deity-level experts had gathered here. This was a furnace for the strong, but it also contained endless opportunities. The Blood Mane mountain range shook continuously. The furious roars of the Blood Mane beasts resounded throughout the mountain range, echoing endlessly. This was the place where the 2 Blood Mane Beast King lived. In the Meteor Turbulence Danger Zone, only God Realm experts were qualified to occupy a piece of land. Not only were the 2 Blood Mane Beast Kings' aura 10 times stronger than the Blood Mane Beast Kings, but their size, skin, and the Blood Mane horn on their foreheads were all different. They possessed the golden sovereign Bloodfang horn. One of them was slightly larger than the other, and there were 2 blood-devouring horns on its forehead. However, one of the blood-devouring horns was slightly smaller, and its golden radiance was slightly dimmer. Return immediately. Okay, find out who did it, and chop him into minced meat. Don't worry, even if I kill 10,000 by mistake, I will never let one go. Slaughtering my blood-maned beast clan and occupying my black forbidden holy land, even the Destiny race doesn't have the guts to do so. A mere human, if I don't kill him, where will my blood-maned beast clan's face go? 100 years. Even if one was strong enough, they also needed to be patient enough to persevere until now. If it were an ordinary expert, they would have given up long ago. The blood-red mire was bottomless, and the lower they went, the greater the resistance. No one knew how deep this blood-red abyss was. Billions of miles, tens of billions of miles, hundreds of billions of miles? It was all possible. There was a time limit for every opening of the void turbulent flow. The shortest was 3,000 years, and the longest was 10,000 years. Was it worth it to spend the limited time in this endless exploration? For Lin Feng, it was worth it. I've finally reached the bottom. 10 years ago, Lin Feng had already vaguely felt a huge source of energy coming from the bottom of the blood-red mire, but the closer he got to the bottom, the stronger the resistance. Especially the last part of the journey, it could be said to be difficult. Now, after 1,100 years of exploration, there was finally a result. Whoosh! The divine path was like a dagger, piercing through the last barrier of the blood-red mire. What greeted him was an incomparably turbulent and powerful energy, as if it could annihilate his body. It was clearly darkness, but he could see a bright light. It was not the light of light, but the color of darkness. Extreme darkness, but there is light? Lin Feng was a little confused. Some of the fixed thoughts in his head seemed to have been broken, and a new chapter opened. He had a new understanding of the essence of light and darkness. Somehow, there seemed to be a connection between the two of them. Whoosh! In just an instant, Lin Feng had already landed steadily. An extremely strong gravitational force came, which was the law of the path of darkness. The terrifying gravitational force was enough to crush an 8-star expert into pieces. Even if Lin Feng's body was strong enough, he still felt a little pressure, but it was still within an acceptable range. Endless dark energy covered the bottom of the blood-red mire. Every dark element in the surroundings seemed to be flawless, containing the essence of darkness and vitality. Being in it was like being in a dream. So this is the bottom of the blood-mud abyss. Lin Feng's breathing was slightly hurried as he clearly sensed his surroundings. The comprehension he had gained over the past 1,100 years seemed to have been instantly integrated. The 100,000 source points were connected to each other, and the refining and absorption of the 10 high-grade blood stallion horns seemed to have been easily resolved. Sacred ground. This was the true sacred ground of the blood python beasts. What a large area. Although Lin Feng's aura sense was restricted, his sixth sense was extremely clear. He was incomparably amazed. This area was vast and boundless, and he could not see the end at all. It was like a new world. I seemed to have discovered an incredible place. Lin Feng took a deep breath. The source of the blood-red mire was the perfect dark light that he had seen just now. Following his senses, Lin Feng slowly moved forward. The extremely strong gravitational force suppressed his movements. Lin Feng spread his warm wings and offset part of the gravity. It was not far ahead. The closer he got, the more he felt his body shaking. The dark magic patterns appeared one by one, exuding a brilliant light. It was a call, the call of life, the call of the purest power. Thump, thump, thump. The sound of his heartbeat was extremely clear. Lin Feng had already seen the source. An extremely pure and perfect dark ball of light was suspended in the center of this vast land. It emitted an astonishing power and magnetic field, as if it was the core of everything in the world. It was incomparably sacred. It was supreme and supreme. It was the source of darkness. Finally found it. Lin Feng revealed a smile, his eyes bright. Chapter 2070. Good wine sank to the bottom of the urn. The moment he saw this perfect dark ball, Lin Feng knew that his 1,100 years of persistence had not been in vain. Even the origin of the Holy Land paled in comparison. The origin of the Holy Land, in terms of treasure effects, should be at the level of a top-tier excellent true treasure, on the same level as the Wings of Warmth. However, this dark ball was definitely at the level of a pinnacle true treasure. Although he did not know its true effects, the aura it emitted had completely surpassed the origin of the Holy Land. Regardless of shape, energy, aura, or structure, it was clearly different. Pan, Lin Feng stretched out his hand and touched the black ball of light. There was no rejection. The dark demonic patterns were exquisite, forming a perfect resonance with the dark ball. Streaks of extremely pure bloodline energy gushed out of the dark ball and seeped into the dark demonic patterns. Strand by strand, strand by strand. So comfortable. Lin Feng felt like he was in a dark ocean. It was boundless. The dark ball was like a mother, nurturing every child. The dark demonic patterns were like blooming flowers, with fine patterns appearing like willow branches. Each pattern had a unique meaning, and each secret pattern contained a powerful force, showing the great Tao of darkness. Too powerful. It was different from being in the blood swamp. In the blood swamp, the influx of bloodline energy was like sucking with a straw. Now, it was pouring in like an avalanche. The more the body could accept, the more powerful the bloodline energy was. Endless, boundless power. It's worth it. Lin Feng was completely immersed in this wonderful feeling. The improvement of bloodline was the most fundamental. It was a leap in the level of life, an enhancement of the talent of darkness. It improved basic strength from all aspects, increasing one's own ability level by level. Not to mention other things, just the understanding of the great Tao of darkness would transform with the improvement of bloodline. The most direct was the connection of 100,000 origins. The level was increasing. It was like a child reading a book and an adult reading a book. The comprehension ability was much different. In the deepest part of the blood swamp lair, the ground was littered with corpses, all of which belonged to Blood Python Beast King. It was a majestic palace with a majestic statue of the Blood Python Beast King. None of the beasts guarding the perimeter were Blood Python Beast Commanders, only Blood Python Beast Lords. Because this was the Blood Mane Royal Palace. The two Blood Mane Beast Kings' palace ruled over all the Blood Mane beasts. Ordinary experts of the Origin Awakened continent could not even enter the depths of the Blood Mane lair, let alone the Blood Mane Royal Palace. However, this was not a problem for the Destiny race, who had a thorough understanding of the Blood Mane lair. Although the Blood Mane lair was large, the Destiny race had already drawn 90% of the map. Although he had never entered the remaining 10%, he had a rough idea. The 3 forbidden areas of the Blood Mantis lair. The sovereign blood-sucking horn must be hidden in one of the 3 great forbidden lands. We haven't found the forbidden Black Land and the forbidden Wild Land, and we can't enter the deepest part of the forbidden pool. The only possibility is the blood-devouring royal palace. The Grand Magisprius Heavenly Eye was pale white, and the 9 forks in his eyes were frightening. Boundless power was unleashed, slaughtering a group of blood-maned beast kings. Today, I force my way into the blood-maned royal palace. The 2 blood-maned beast king will soon know. Grand Magisprius' face was solemn as he shuttled through the royal palace. There must be a secret passage between the blood-maned lair and the meteor chaos land. They will soon arrive. Whether or not we can find the sovereign blood-sucking horn, we must leave this place immediately. There are still a few scapegoats in the blood-maned lair. Let these idiots bear the wrath of the blood-maned beast king. The sovereign blood-sucking horn. Grand Magisprius' aura was majestic as he forced his way into the blood-maned royal palace, searching for the treasures within. Here. No, they're only outstanding true treasures. No, these are fruits of darkness. Damn it. Where is the sovereign blood-sucking horn? Grand Magisprius' goal was the sovereign blood-sucking horn. He didn't care about the other treasures at all, including those outstanding cardinal treasures. Over countless epochs, the Destiny race had accumulated countless treasures. Although outstanding cardinal treasures were top class in Origin Awakened continent, they were of little value to the Destiny race. They had too many treasures. There's a passage here. All right. Grand Magus Priest didn't hesitate as he entered. Time passed slowly. Lin Feng was immersed in the boundless energy of the black ball of light, almost forgetting about time. Bloodline strengthening, comprehending 100,000 origin realms. Time passed like the tide, quickly passing. This continued until the arrival of a singularity. Breakthrough, crossing the singularity. His body and mind were in high spirits as the dark demonic pattern shone with incomparable light. The complex patterns on the surface of his body had already completely covered the light demonic pattern. It was filled with absolute dominance. This was the foundation of darkness. Frenzied, ruthless, unrestrained. Under this powerful surge of energy, the light demonic pattern and the black whirlpool had already fallen into a deep slumber. Even if they were forcefully awakened, they would still be restricted by the dark demonic pattern. The light demonic pattern was more complex than the dark demonic pattern. It was like comparing a student who had just learned how to draw to an artist. The difference was like heaven and earth. Slap! Lin Feng almost instantly withdrew his right hand that had touched the black ball of light. Shock appeared on his face as his brows furrowed tightly. Right now, he only needed a thought to send in more darkness bloodline energy to transform and upgrade his bloodline. But was it really possible? No. Lin Feng had a feeling that he couldn't control it. The dark demonic pattern was so powerful that it was beyond his control. It was like a demon in his body had awakened, but he couldn't suppress this demon's power. Lin Feng hesitated. He could faintly sense what would happen in the next moment. Breaking through the singularity, the dark demonic pattern would transform to a new level, reaching the 5th stage. This stage was powerful enough to raise his life level to that of a high-class god or even a god. With his current battle power and cultivation level, once his life level increased, his battle power would definitely evolve. Adding on the talent granted by the 5th stage of the dark demonic pattern, it wouldn't be difficult for the 6 paths of darkness to reach 100,000 origins. Soon, he would step into the god level and enter the top 10 of the Origin Awakening list. However, the price of doing so was destroying everything he had before. The light demonic pattern would be devoured by the powerful dark demonic pattern, along with the black whirlpool. The 5th stage of the dark demonic pattern was beyond his control. Losing the light demonic pattern would be an eternal loss. He would no longer be able to cultivate the myriad heaven path left by his ancestor, the path of light and darkness. From there, he would walk on a new path of darkness cultivation. Lin Feng frowned deeply. 2 paths were in front of him. One, he could quickly obtain great power, but his future was unknown. Although the cultivation level in the future was clear, there were many unpredictable things. The other path had clear cultivation levels that pointed directly to the great Tao, but the increase in strength was limited. How should he choose? Chapter 2071. I can't do that. Lin Feng quickly rejected his previous thoughts. Taking shortcuts was not his style. The great Tao of darkness was good, but there were many unknown dangers. His future was uncertain. Also, his strength could only reach the level of godly spirit. How should he proceed? He didn't like feeling his way around in the dark. Maybe he would go fast, but he would get slower and slower. Since I've chosen the path of my ancestor and cultivated the myriad heaven Tao, I have to walk down it unswervingly. Although this path was very difficult and slow, Lin Feng knew that it was a true great Tao. Any path that was easy to walk might not be far. On the contrary, the harder the path was, the greater the rewards and the further one could go. Also, although the dark MO pattern cannot reach the 5th stage, it has reached the limit of the 4th stage. My dark power has transformed in all aspects. Using the great Tao of darkness and cultivating 100,000 origins is much stronger than before. It's enough. There is no need to be greedy. He should stop when he was ahead. There was no need to ruin his future for the sake of immediate benefits. Although the path of the myriad heaven paths fusion of light and darkness was very difficult to walk, not only did this path have a complete inheritance and cultivation system, it had also begun to show its brilliance and great power. It was very difficult to give up what was at his fingertips. However, Lin Feng's heart was firm. It's okay. I'm just a step late. Lin Feng looked at the dark ball of light, his eyes bright. With this pinnacle, true treasure, I can absorb the dark bloodline power at any time and increase my level. His divine light pattern was at the 3rd stage. When it reached the 4th stage, wouldn't his dark MO pattern break through? His body could withstand the difference of 1 stage. With the Holy Land origin as the core of the dark MO pattern, it can continuously increase the power of darkness. And with this dark ball of light providing bloodline power for the dark origin, not only can I cultivate the great Tao of darkness quickly and smoothly, I won't have any bottlenecks. Withdraw. Lin Feng did as he thought. Since he was here, there was no reason to miss the dark ball of light. He knew very well that this ball of darkness was extremely important to the blood succubus beasts. It was because of its existence that there was the forbidden black land, and a large number of ordinary blood succubus beasts could evolve into blood succubus beast commanders. Once he took it away, it would be the same as poking a hornet's nest, cutting off one of the blood-devouring beast's crucial lines. Just like how he took away the source of the sacred land that day, the impact on the Green Palm tribe could be said to be great. Back then, it was an unintentional mistake, but today, it was intentional. So what if he took it? Swish! Lin Feng immediately put away the black ball of light. There wasn't much resistance, and the black ball of light didn't reject him either. But as the black ball of light disappeared, the entire region seemed to suddenly become empty and dim. It was as if the earth had lost its sun. The energy of darkness decreased sharply, and the power of darkness began to degenerate. Even the elements of darkness in the air became unstable. It was as if the core of a great array had been taken away, causing the entire area to undergo a tremendous change. As expected, Lin Feng was not surprised. The dark ball of light was the core of this holy land. Go! Without any hesitation, Lin Feng left the moment he took the black ball of light with him. The blood-devouring beasts couldn't enter this place, and he wasn't afraid of them, but the blood-devouring beast king was very dangerous. Would the blood-devouring beast king let him go if he took away the treasure of the blood-devouring beast just like that? But such a pinnacle true treasure was right in front of him. It would be too cowardly not to take it. If the blood-devouring beast king wanted to kill him, then so be it. One more enemy might not be a good thing, but the situation wouldn't necessarily become too bad. It's a pity that I can't fuse with this black ball of light now. Lin Feng felt very clearly that the energy of the black ball of light was too strong, and he definitely couldn't fuse with it now. He might even be injured by the backlash. Only when the dark magic pattern reached the 5th stage could he possibly fuse with this pinnacle true treasure. He didn't return the way he came. This area was very large, and it was very difficult for other experts to enter. It would be a pity if he didn't explore carefully. Perhaps there were other treasures besides the black ball of light. Whoosh! Whoosh! As he obtained the black ball of light, the entire area changed drastically, and the search for the aura was gradually unhindered. Lin Feng searched carefully in the direction of the dissipating energy and soon found another strange place. Blood Mud Pool. Lin Feng looked up. It was very similar to the blood mud pool he fell into before, and the feeling was very similar, but the energy here was much stronger than the blood mud pool. Even without the cover of the black ball of light, it was still much stronger than the blood mud pool when the energy of the black ball of light was abundant. Understand. Lin Feng reacted quickly. This should be another black, forbidden land. The blood-devouring beasts have a black forbidden land that can transform ordinary blood-devouring beasts into blood-devouring beast commanders. Naturally, it can also transform blood-devouring beast commanders into blood-devouring beast lords. The two forbidden lands should be separated. The structure of the blood mud pool here is different from the black forbidden land. It's more compact, and the energy concentration is stronger. The blood mud pool itself is also smaller. Because it was small and compact, the energy was more refined and powerful. But whether it was transforming from an ordinary blood-devouring beast to a blood-devouring beast commander, or from a blood-devouring beast commander to a blood-devouring beast lord, the essence was exactly the same. It was the same as the evolution of his dark mage wealth. It required bloodline energy, and all the bloodline energy came from the black ball of light he had just obtained. Phew, Lin Feng sighed softly. If the blood-devouring beast king knew about this, he would probably be furious. What he did could be said to have destroyed the foundation of the blood-devouring beasts. But he didn't feel guilty. This was the chaotic void, where the strong were respected, and the weak were prey to the strong. Whether or not he took the black ball of light, the blood-devouring beast king would still kill him if he saw him. They were enemies, not friends. Since that was the case, why should he be polite? The spatial disorder here is very strong. It's completely suppressed by the dark matter. The entire spatial region is very chaotic. Lin Feng's perception was very clear. The various great Tao of darkness had merged into one. There was almost no spatial energy here. Even if there was, it was completely suppressed. The law of dark matter was constantly distorted. The law of annihilation devoured space. The law of darkness was very effective. It was difficult to sense the law of space, even if he calmed down. If he hadn't completely analyzed the 100,000 origins and had the experience of the Black Forbidden Land, he would definitely have gotten lost. But now his mind was very clear. The path he had taken, including the place he came from, were very clear. The two forbidden lands were connected. What did this mean? This must be the most important area of the blood-devouring beast lair. If there are treasures, it's most likely here. Lin Feng was very sure. Chapter 2072. Lin Feng explored carefully. He was very sure that there was a secret here. It was connected to the two forbidden areas of the blood python lair, and had the dark ball as its core. Plus, only the blood python beast king could enter, so it was hidden enough to be the best treasure trove. However, Lin Feng did not ask for too much. Obtaining the dark ball was equivalent to earning a peak true treasure. He did not think that there was any treasure in the blood python lair that could be more precious than the dark ball. Just like how the origin of the Holy Land was to the green tree race, the dark ball was probably one of the foundations of the blood python beast race. This way, Lin Feng followed his intuition. The entire Holy Land was quite distorted. The law of dark matter affected every corner, making it extremely difficult to distinguish directions. Especially without the dark ball, the entire area seemed to have lost its center of gravity and was a mess. Lin Feng was very confident in his sixth sense. He did not have a destination to begin with, so he did not need to be too deliberate. He could just follow his heart. The blood-maned Beast King and the Black Ball of Light are probably mentally connected. He will soon know that I have taken away the Black Ball of Light. Lin Feng thought, whether I can find the treasure or not, I need to leave this place as soon as possible. Although there were rumors that the two Blood Python Beast King were both in the meteorite turbulence danger zone, it was better to be careful. What a pity! If the threat of the Blood Python Beast King wasn't there, it would be good to cultivate here. Lin Feng was touched. Every law of darkness, every bit of dark energy, and every bit of dark elemental element was perfect and flawless. Cultivating here, comprehending the 100,000 origin connections would be twice the result with half the effort. After refining the powerful Death Python primordial heart, his path of oblivion's 100,000 origin connections had already exceeded half. In addition, he had improved a lot after 1,100 years of cultivation. After refining the high-grade blood python horns, 2 of them contained the path of oblivion. Now, his path of oblivion's 100,000 origin connections had exceeded 80%. As for the remaining 20%, it would probably take a very long time in the outside world. But if he cultivated here, it would take at least 1,000 years or even several thousand years. He would definitely succeed. From the 3rd stage of great perfection to the 4th stage of great perfection, connecting 100,000 origin points, condensing the law, and finally reaching 100,000 Origin Realm. However, he could only think about it. It was too impractical to cultivate in the enemy's lair. I'll take it one step at a time. Lin Feng's figure continued to flicker. The deeper he went, the harder it was for him to discern the direction. However, he was still able to remember the general direction. After all, he had experience in the Forbidden Blackland, so he was quite familiar with this place. Suddenly, Lin Feng was slightly surprised. In front of him was a mountain of junk. Broken swords, armors, and some other things were piled up there like a pile of junk. Step! Lin Feng stopped in front of the pile of waste and took the sword. Destroyed. Lin Feng stroked the body of the sword, and his heart skipped a beat. Based on his experience in dealing with true treasures, the material of this treasured sword was at least of the elite true treasure level. It was very likely to be an outstanding true treasure. The armor is destroyed as well. Lin Feng took the armor, and his gaze fell on a fiery red half-moon-shaped true treasure. Holding it in his hand, it instantly burned like a raging fire. The half-moon true treasure emitted a fierce flame, and its power was boundless. An outstanding true treasure? Lin Feng was startled, and he couldn't help but laugh. His luck was too good. He had found an outstanding true treasure so casually. Although this true treasure didn't suit him, no matter how high its grade was, it was still worth a lot. Putting away the fiery red half-moon true treasure, Lin Feng began to search again. With the previous gains, Lin Feng was mentally prepared. As expected, he found one true treasure after another. Among them, there were two outstanding true treasures. One of them was even an outstanding true treasure of the light element. Even the broken sword was of the light element. Moreover, there was a storage ring. A solitary expert, Lin Feng confirmed the owner of these treasures. It came from a supreme figure who was once ranked in the top 10 of the Origin Awakening list. He didn't know which reincarnation era he was from, but his strength was unquestionable. He died here. Lin Feng sighed. The top 10 of the Origin Awakening list had god-level strength. Although they were invincible in the Origin Awakening continent, this was the chaotic void, the holy land of the Blood Python lair. Most likely, he died under the claws of the two Blood Python Beast King. Lin Feng was very clear that with the strength of the top 10 of the Origin Awakening list, even if he faced a group of Blood Python lords, he could escape unscathed. Apart from the two terrifyingly powerful Blood Python Beast King, there was basically no one else who could kill him. Lin Feng put away the pile of treasures that had been here for who knew how many years. If he could enter this holy land, other experts would naturally have their own methods. However, it was difficult to enter and perhaps even more difficult to leave. This pile of treasures had obviously been casually piled up here by the Blood Python Beast King as spoils of war. Now that he had arrived here, it meant that he was very close to the Blood Python Beast King's lair. Leave or continue? The problem in front of Lin Feng was very realistic. If he continued to walk, the closer he got to the Blood Python Beast King's lair, the more treasures there might be, but at the same time, the greater the danger he would face. The Blood Python Beast King was a super powerful existence that could kill the top 10 of the Origin Awakening list. With his current strength, it was basically hitting a stone with an egg. However, leaving now was too cowardly. Knowing that there might be treasures ahead, but giving up because of fear, wouldn't people laugh their heads off? Knowing that there's a tiger in a mountain, but walking towards the tiger's mountain. Lin Feng smiled calmly. He instantly sped forward, increasing his speed. He was more than 70% sure that the Blood Python Beast King was not in the lair. Otherwise, this place was so close to its lair, and he had taken the black ball of light. Why would it be so peaceful and not look for him? While it's not here, I'll loot everything here and then escape. Taking one item was taking 10 items was also taking. Why not take more? Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. His sixth sense was abnormally strong as he looked straight ahead. No, still not. The law of dark matter divided the area into countless fragments, like a maze. It was impossible to search all of it in a short period of time. He could only rely on luck. Oh, haha, it's here. Hard work paid off. Lin Feng finally found it. His figure entered a spacious jade palace. The entire palace was filled with black fog. Even though it had lost the black ball of light, it was not affected in the slightest. It was an independent entity, like an existence of a supreme treasure. Inside the palace, towering blood python beast king stood proudly. Every one of them seemed to be the embodiment of natural darkness. Their postures were different, and their golden horns had complex, mysterious patterns that seemed to be able to pierce a hole in the sky. However, these 6 blood python beast king did not have any aura of life. They had already fallen a long time ago. Phew! Lin Feng let out a light breath, his eyes bright. He had finally found it. Chapter 2073. Golden Blood Centipede Horn. Supreme Blood Centipede Horn. Lin Feng took a deep breath. Looking at the 6 blood centipede beast king of different shapes, Lin Feng's heartbeat quickened. If it were other warriors, they might not be able to distinguish the golden supreme blood centipede horn, but he cultivated the Tao of darkness, especially when he had just refined 10 high-grade blood centipede horns. The golden supreme blood centipede horn in front of him was on a completely different level from the high-grade blood centipede horn. It was perfect. It was flawless. It was like a piece of art created by the heavens. A bit more would make it full, and a bit less would make it incomplete. The secret runes on the supreme blood centipede horn were a perfect whole, connected to the most fundamental existence of 100,000 origins. He's gone mad. Lin Feng shook his head in shock. The supreme blood centipede horn was a treasure that existed in legends. Each horn represented the crystallization of a Tao of darkness that had reached 100,000 origins. Refining a high-grade blood centipede horn would allow one to obtain many mysteries of 100,000 origins. But refining a supreme blood centipede horn would allow one to directly reach the 4th stage of perfection, connecting 100,000 origins and then condensing them into a law all. Only one step was needed. Once it was crossed, one could truly reach 100,000 origins. The difference between a high-grade blood centipede horn and a supreme blood centipede horn was like heaven and earth. Each supreme blood centipede horn was worth as much as a pinnacle true treasure. Perhaps their value was inferior to the ball of darkness he had just obtained, but the increase in his strength surpassed the ball of darkness. The most terrifying thing was there were 6 supreme blood centipede horns in front of him. It was too crazy. The blood centipede beast race's sacred land. This must be the most precious sacred land of the blood centipede beast race. Generations of beast king of the blood centipede beast race are buried here. That's why there are so many supreme blood centipede horns. Lin Feng glanced over and instantly judged. It was very simple, because the current blood centipede beast king only had 2. Phew! Lin Feng let out a sigh of relief. He had thought that obtaining the ball of darkness was a great opportunity. Who would have thought that there was an even bigger cake waiting for him? 6 supreme blood centipede horns. If the top 10 powerhouses of the Origin Awakening list were to see this, they would most likely fight madly for these 6 horns. The value is too high. Swish! Lin Feng's body flashed. He was extremely cautious. The more critical the situation was, the more careful he had to be. After all, this was the most important place for the blood-sucking beasts. However, there was clearly no special defense here, and Lin Feng quickly entered. In fact, the 2 forbidden lands were already natural defenses. How could it be so easy to enter? Moreover, no one knew that there was another world beneath the forbidden grounds, with the blood-maned beast king guarding the place. Entering this place was basically a dead end. The solo powerhouse ranked in the top 10 of the Origin Awakening list was the best example. Pa! Lin Feng's hand directly grasped one of the sovereign blood centipede horns. In an instant, a shockingly powerful force surged out from his tentacle. It was a golden blood centipede beast king with blood-red eyes. It blotted out the sun as it opened its bloody mouth and bit down. The speed was extremely fast. Break! Lin Feng opened his eyes and directly broke through the illusion. The demonic runes on his body bloomed. The origin of the sacred land provided an endless amount of energy that wrapped around the sovereign blood centipede horn. The two merged like fish and water, and in an instant, the sovereign blood centipede horn lit up with a golden light. Got it. Lin Feng revealed a smile and directly put it away. The will pressure from the sovereign blood centipede horn might be useful against ordinary 9-star powerhouses, but it was no threat to him at all. The second horn, the third horn, Lin Feng smoothly obtained it. Even though the sovereign blood main horn possessed some power, he cultivated the way of darkness and had reached the third phase of great perfection with 100,000 reciprocity experts. He was equivalent to a blood main beast lord, so the sovereign blood main horn obviously would not reject him. In the blink of an eye, he had obtained 4 sovereign blood centipede horns. Suddenly not good. Lin Feng's expression suddenly changed. Although the range of his aura was not large, he could feel a powerful force rapidly approaching. Lin Feng used his fastest speed to obtain the 5th sovereign blood centipede horn. As soon as he obtained it, a terrifying soul energy descended. Boom! Lin Feng's body staggered, his face slightly pale. This was a direct collision with the soul. There were not many experts in the Origin Awakened continent who could use such a move, and those with such power could be counted on one hand. Moreover, each of them belonged to the same race. He was the most familiar with them. Destiny race. Lin Feng put away the 5th sovereign blood centipede horn. His right foot heavily stepped on the blood centipede beast king's body, which had already been condensed by darkness, and borrowed the force to obtain the 6th sovereign blood centipede horn. If he had not sensed the destiny race, Lin Feng would have fled long ago. Although the destiny race's experts were not weak, compared to the blood centipede beast king, they were not on the same level. Moreover, he was too familiar with the destiny race. With such soul power, he was most likely the second strongest expert of the destiny race. The 13th ranked on the Origin Awakened list, Wu Jitian. You're courting death. In the distance, Wu Jitian's bloody eyes were filled with rage. Only the heavens knew what he had experienced. Coming down from the imperial palace, he had encountered many dangers. Even with his powerful senses, he had almost died. However, the heavens did not disappoint those who persevered. One day, the energy of the originally dead and suddenly dissipated, and the sealed path opened. He had actually found the path to the sacred ground. 3,000 years. He was the first to enter the chaotic void, and the first to enter the blood centipede nest. His goal was the sovereign blood centipede horn. After expending a tremendous amount of effort, he had finally found it, only to discover that someone had beaten him to it. He was furious. Die! Wu Jitian was furious. With blood-red eyes, he directly used his soul secret technique, staking everything he had to kill Lin Feng. He would not let this human youth escape no matter what, because this human youth had the sovereign blood centipede horn. It was a supreme treasure that even kings would scramble for. Boom! The blood-red light shot towards Lin Feng. Wu Jitian was 100% confident. This attack had gathered 20% of his soul strength. Even the top 10 experts of the Origin Awakener list would be injured if they received this attack. This little human fellow hadn't even been able to withstand his normal soul strength attack. Even if he didn't die, he would be heavily injured. He was full of confidence. However, in an instant, Wu Jitian's mind shook and his face turned pale. He groaned as if he had been struck by lightning. His entire body retreated, and he spat out blood. Wu Jitian's eyes were filled with disbelief as he was overwhelmed with shock. This attack, which had gathered 20% of his soul energy, had not only failed to destroy the human youth's sea of consciousness, but it had also been shattered. Impossible! Wu Jitian's soul was devoured. He was shocked. At this moment, he saw that the human youth, who had been injured by his normal soul attack, had taken the sovereign blood centipede horn as if nothing had happened. He even smiled at him and left. What had happened? Wu Jitian's mind was in a mess. Chapter 2074. I got them all. Lin Feng put away the last supreme blood lotus horn and immediately left. Not a single one was left behind. Stupid. Lin Feng laughed. When he had been attacked by Wu Jitian's soul, he had only pretended to be injured. With a sole defensive treasure like the 10,000 origin mustard stone, let alone Wu Jitian, even if all the experts of the Destiny race combined their soul attacks, they wouldn't be able to do anything to him. However, apart from soul attacks, the Destiny race was also quite strong in the Tao of space and telekinesis. Wu Jitian's strength was genuine, and he was ranked 13th on the Origin Awakening list. If he was entangled with him, the chances of him obtaining the 6th Supreme Blood Lotus Horn would be around 50%. The most troublesome thing was that he would have to fight him. Right now was not the time to fight, because this was not a suitable place. If this was any other place, Lin Feng might try to test Wu Jitian's strength, but in the Palace of the Blood Lotus Beasts, what a joke. He had already taken 6 Supreme Blood Lotus Horns and the Sacred Land's Core of Darkness. What was he waiting for? He should stop while he was ahead. There might be other treasures in this ancient palace, but Lin Feng didn't have time to investigate. It didn't matter. With 6 Supreme Blood Lotus Horns in hand, Lin Feng was already very satisfied. More accurately, he was too satisfied. Whoosh! Whoosh! Lin Feng was extremely fast. A clear map appeared in his mind. He judged the changes in the law of dark matter and returned the way he had come. Perhaps there was another way out, but it was better to be familiar. Although returning the way he had come would take a bit more time, it was at least safe. He didn't have to fumble around like a blind man crossing a river. Human, Lin Feng. It's him, it must be him. After a moment of confusion, this name suddenly appeared in Wu Jitian's mind. This was the little human who had once turned the Destiny realm upside down. He knew all the experts on the Origin Awakening list, but none of them looked like this. So young, so powerful, and the strangest thing was that this human youth wasn't afraid of soul attacks at all. Apart from that freak Lin Feng, who else could it be? Damn it, it's him again. He's ruined my Destiny race's plans time and time again. Wu Jitian gritted his teeth, his eyes sharp. In a split second, he stepped on the long white shuttle and locked his aura. Then, he turned into a stream of light and chased after him. It hadn't been easy for them to find the blood-devouring beast's sacred palace and discover the sovereign blood-devouring horn, but they had to watch it be taken away. That kind of heartache was like someone had hollowed out something. It was incomparably uncomfortable. It's mine. This is my opportunity. Damn it. Wu Jitian was heartbroken as he roared furiously. What he didn't know was that he couldn't even enter the blood-devouring beast clan's sacred land, let alone discover the sacred palace and the sovereign blood-devouring horn. There were only 3 entrances to the Holy Land, each more difficult than the last. Coming down from the King Palace in the deepest part of the blood-maned lair was the most dangerous place. There was no way out. He had to thank Lin Feng for being able to find the way. It was only because Lin Feng had taken away the ball of darkness and destroyed the Holy Land's defenses that he was able to enter. Otherwise, even after 3,000 years, or even 3,000 epochs, he still wouldn't be able to reach Sacred Hall. Do you think you can escape? Don't be naive. Wu Jitian's eyes were cold. He was very confident in his perception. Even the top 10 experts on the Origin Awakener list wouldn't be able to escape once they were locked onto by his aura, let alone a mere human. As long as he locked onto Lin Feng's position, even if he escaped to the ends of the earth, he would be able to catch up. However, it was only for a short while. What? Wu Jitian was stunned. The dense aura of dark matter shrouded the entire area. The spatial perception was extremely blurry, and even his perception and soul were blocked. Previously, he could still vaguely sense it, but now, he couldn't even sense it. It was as if the sky had gradually darkened until he couldn't even see his fingers. He couldn't sense any aura at all. This is impossible. How did he escape? Wu Jitian, who had just entered the Holy Land, naturally didn't know what method Lin Feng had used. Actually, the method was very simple. He had used the distortion of the law of dark matter. Soul perception had a distance. Everyone was moving at light speed, so they could lock onto each other's soul aura. However, the law of dark matter would forcefully interfere here. When the area was distorted, the distance would naturally change. The distance would become shorter, but the aura would still be locked onto. However, when the distance increased, it was as if one's vision was blurred, and they couldn't see far away. Naturally, the aura detection would be cut off. To Lin Feng, who was familiar with this place, using the law of dark matter was extremely easy. Even if he wasn't familiar with the terrain, he was proficient in the law of dark matter. Forcefully using the characteristics of the area to cut off the aura detection wasn't difficult. The next time we meet, we'll compete again. There will always be a chance. Lin Feng smiled. With his current strength, he might be a little wary of Wu Jitian outside, but here, with the law of dark matter, even if Wu Jitian was stronger, he wouldn't fear him. However, the timing wasn't right. His sixth sense told him that an unknown terror was about to arrive. This terror wasn't something he could resist right now. Blood-Mane Beast Race. Holy Palace, the six-headed Blood-Mane Beast King stood proudly, his aura soaring to the heavens. However, without the sovereign Blood-Mane horn on his head, his aura was greatly reduced. It was as if a dragon had lost its eyes. Outside the palace, a figure appeared, cursing. Unlucky. Wu Jitian's expression was extremely ugly. His soul had already been injured, and now everything was going wrong. He was furious. But what could he do? Don't let me catch you. I'll make you pay with interest. The sovereign Blood-Mane horn belongs to the destiny race. Wu Jitian's eyes were cold as he entered the palace. Even if he couldn't eat the meat, he could at least drink the soup. Now that he couldn't catch up to that human Lin Feng, he could only suppress his anger. The Blood-Mane Beast Race's holy palace should have other good things besides the sovereign Blood-Mane horn. There, Wu Jitian spread out his aura and quickly found the location of the treasure. It wasn't hidden very well, so it was easy to find. Normally, even the sovereign blood-sucking horn could be seen at a glance, not to mention the other scattered treasures. Unlucky. Wu Jitian knew the value of the treasures with just a glance. He was so angry that he ground his teeth. These treasures might be useful to other 9-star experts, but the Destiny race didn't lack them. Everything added together wasn't even a third of the sovereign Blood-Mane horn. But no matter how small a mosquito was, it was still meat. Although Wu Jitian was cursing, he still nimbly collected the treasures. At this moment, boom! A monstrous aura descended as a boundless blood-red color filled the air. The entire sacred palace shook violently. Wu Jitian's expression changed drastically as he instinctively tried to escape. However, a blood-red enchantment appeared around the sacred palace, as if it was a cage that completely locked him in. Punk! Wu Jitian was like a bird in a cage, his face pale. Goddamn Destiny race, who gave you the guts? An angry roar rumbled like thunder in the holy palace. Chapter 2075. His blood-red eyes emitted a terrifying aura. The golden sovereign Blood-Mane horn on his forehead was covered with mysterious spiral patterns. Extreme dark energy spread out, and the scales on his body stood upright. His huge body floated in the air above the sacred palace like a deity, looking down on the little ones. Blood-Mane Beast King, T1. Tao of Darkness, 100,000 Origin Realm, with the sovereign Blood-Mane horn, a true divine realm expert. His arrival caused the entire hall to instantly become alive. At this moment, Wu Jitian's face was ghastly pale, while his body couldn't help but tremble. He was like a thief who'd been caught red-handed while trying to steal something. The Destiny race could get whatever they wanted in the Origin Awakened continent, and they were not afraid of anyone. However, in the chaotic void, they were usually very low-key. This was because there were too many powerful races in the chaotic void, and the Blood-Mane Beast race was one of them. Destiny race, how dare you? Blood-Mane Beast King T1's eyes were red as he raged. You even dare to blaspheme the remains of my Blood-Mane Beast race's ancestor. Damn it, die. T1 roared as his power erupted. He was already much stronger than Wu Jitian, and he had the absolute advantage. Killing Wu Jitian was like squashing an ant. The terrifying dark energy suddenly descended. No, it wasn't me. Wu Jitian screamed. He cursed in his heart. Not only did he not get a single sovereign Blood-Mane horn, but he also had to bear the blame. He was wronged. Die. Blood-Mane Beast King T1's claw imprints filled the sky, completely sealing the space. No matter how strong Wu Jitian's defense was, it was riddled with holes. After taking dozens of attacks, he was like a human sandbag, spitting out blood as he was heavily injured. T1, you dare to kill me. Wu Jitian was shocked as he screamed. Why wouldn't I dare? Bloodmane Beast King T1's voice was bone-chilling. He raised his claws and looked down. If it was Wulong's soul attack, I might be a little afraid. But you? You can't kill me. Wu Jitian's lips turned pale. He gritted his teeth and said, If you kill me, it's the same as going against the destiny race. The king will not let you go. Bloodmaned Beast King Tyvan kept silent. His cold eyes turned, and a blood-red light seeped out. His hesitation gradually turned into decisiveness as he looked down at Wu Jitian. Hand over the supreme blood centipede horn and scram as far as you can. Wu Jitian was stunned. He could see that it was the blood-maned Beast King Tyvan's ultimatum. But the problem was that he didn't take it. Aye. Wu Jitian panicked. I didn't take it, T1. It really wasn't me. Hand it over. The blood-maned Beast King T1 gritted his teeth. The murderous intent in his blood-red eyes was getting more and more intense. Wisps of black mist seeped out from his scales, carrying an impatient mood. He was about to lose control. It's Lin Feng. It's Lin Feng. Believe me, T1, I really didn't take the supreme blood centipede horn. Wu Jitian panicked. He knew the two blood-maned Beast King T1 very well. Although they were terrifyingly strong, they weren't that intelligent. Their tempers were also extremely irritable. But now, I'll give you one last chance, Destiny Tribe. The blood-maned Beast King T1 stared at Wu Jitian, gritting his teeth as he spoke. His murderous intent filled the air, and the entire sacred hall shook violently. Run! Wu Jitian cursed in his heart, but he had nowhere else to go. He could only run in a panic. But now, there was no point in explaining. However, he was in the sacred hall, and the blood-maned Beast King T1 was staring at him. How could he let him escape? You're courting death. T1 had already lost his patience. He would never let the supreme blood centipede horn be taken away by another tribe. A terrifying darkness descended, trapping Wu Jitian. The latter was like a bird in a cage, struggling with all his might, but it was to no avail. With a boom, Wu Jitian was devoured by the darkness, dying without a burial place. Pum! The blood-maned Beast King T1's body shook violently as he staggered and fell to the ground. His aura instantly weakened, and even his consciousness was in a daze, as if he had been struck by lightning. That was Wu Jitian's death soul attack. If it was the top 10 experts of the Origin Awakening list, they would have died. Only a special life form, like the blood-maned Beast King, could resist it. But the price was not small. T1 had no choice. You don't know what's good for you. T1 frowned, extremely unwilling. He wasn't afraid of other experts, but even his big brother, Timu, was afraid of the Destiny Tribe's king. But the ancestors' supreme blood centipede horn could not be taken away. Ha! T1 directly broke Wu Jitian's storage ring, and rare treasures appeared one after another. The heaven and earth fruits emitted a tempting fragrance, and there were also secret techniques and treasures that ordinary experts would covet. Only the supreme blood centipede horn was missing. It's not here. How can it not be here? T1's eyes widened, and he found it hard to believe. He searched with all his might, rummaging through the storage ring several times, and even crushing Wu Jitian's body into pieces. Not even a hair was left, but he still couldn't find the supreme blood centipede horn. Pung! 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 Lin Feng turned into a stream of light, speeding away, his heart beating extremely fast. It's the blood-maned Beast King. It must be the blood-maned Beast King. He could vaguely feel a trace of extremely weak aura, like the air was shaking. It wasn't energy, but a pure radiation of pressure. He could feel it from so far away, so the identity of the newcomer was obvious. Coupled with his sixth sense, it reached his heart. Lin Feng was almost 90% sure that it was the blood-maned Beast King. He wasn't surprised. Previously, he had seen the relics of the solitary experts outside the sacred palace. It seemed that the blood-maned Beast King could come and go freely in the blood-maned lair, and he could even travel through several forbidden lands. After all, their strength was there, and they had stayed in the turbulent void for countless eras. The turbulent void was no longer a secret to them. Luckily, I ran fast. It would be terrible if I was caught. Lin Feng thought to himself that he was lucky. If he had been entangled by Wu Jitian, he would have been in big trouble. With his current strength, he couldn't fight against the blood-maned Beast King. He had taken the holy item, the Dark Light Sphere, and 6 supreme blood centipede horns. No matter how he looked at it, the blood-maned Beast King wouldn't let him go. I have to leave this place quickly. Lin Feng knew the danger. Although there was no Dark Light Sphere as the core, the whole area seemed to have lost its soul. It wouldn't be easy for the blood-maned Beast King to find him. However, this was his territory. Since he was in the tiger's den, it was better to run as fast as possible. I'm here. Lin Feng remembered the route clearly in his mind. After going around in circles, he had returned to the place where he first landed, at the bottom of the forbidden Blackland. However, there wasn't a huge suction force here. Only some chaotic dark energy was left. Swoosh! Lin Feng leaped up and dove straight into the blood-colored mud pool. Chapter 2076. The sacred palace was in a mess. Blood-maned Beast King T1 was completely stunned. He had seen the Destiny Race guy stealing his treasures with his own eyes. However, he could not find the supreme blood-maned horn even after searching through all his storage rings. Those were the supreme blood-maned horns. Each of them contained the last bit of his ancestors' will and blood. To the blood-maned beast race, these were priceless treasures. T1 did not care if the other treasures were gone, but he could not lose any of the 6 supreme blood-maned horns. Moreover, this was closely related to the reputation of the blood-maned beast race. Damn it, this guy must have an accomplice. He took the supreme blood-maned horn and ran away. Right? He mentioned that he was called Li Feng. Yes, Li Feng. T1 recalled carefully, and his hair stood on end. However, he was so angry that he didn't remember it clearly in the heat of the moment. That should be right. T1's eyes lit up, and his anger surged again. They are accomplices. They must not have run far. They must still be nearby. I will catch him and tear him to pieces. T1 was extremely vicious, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. However, he felt dizzy just as he stood up. He staggered and almost fell to the ground. His expression was extremely ugly. The soul shock of death had caused his soul to suffer heavy injuries. No matter what, Wu Jitian was an expert ranked 13th on the Origin Awakening list. If T1 was not a special life form with a powerful bloodline and was an expert of the God Spirit realm, his soul would have been destroyed by the death soul shock. Damn Destiny Race. T1 felt his soul weaken, and he was about to fall asleep. He opened his mouth and roared. Endless power poured out, causing the sacred ground to shake violently. T1's blood splashed wildly. He used a secret technique to force himself to stay awake. He could not faint. I will find you, Li Feng. T1's face was twisted with hatred. In the blood-colored mud, Lin Feng was slowly moving forward. The resistance is much lower now. Entering the crimson mire again, the feeling was completely different. It was not that his strength had increased, but that the crimson mire had lost its energy source. The ball of darkness was now in his hands. Although the resistance of the blood-colored mire still existed, it was much easier than before. At this rate, we'll be able to return to the forbidden Black Land in less than 100 years. Lin Feng was overjoyed. He had spent a total of 1,100 years to come down from the Black Forbidden Land. Chi! Breaking through the bloody mud, Lin Feng's speed became faster and faster. At the bottom of the blood-colored mud pool, the resistance was the greatest. The higher one went, the smaller the energy and the weaker the resistance. However, Lin Feng's light energy needed time to recover, so his speed was somewhat slow. Wait, Lin Feng was slightly taken aback. Actually, we don't have to use light energy right now. We can use dark energy. The reason why he couldn't use the dark energy before was because it would be absorbed by the blood-colored mud pool and become an obstacle. But now, the blood-colored mud pool was like a pool of stagnant water. Without the support of the ball of darkness, it had become an energy without an owner. Since it couldn't be absorbed, it naturally wouldn't become an obstacle. Of course, using dark energy was definitely not as effective as using light energy. It had a restraining effect on darkness, but it could save him a lot of time to recover, because the dark energy didn't need to be recovered at all. The source of the sacred land would continuously replenish it. After a short test, Lin Feng was overjoyed. It was as he had expected. Previously, his dark energy would be absorbed, but now it was only being consumed. This is much simpler. Lin Feng refined the supreme blood lotus horn while maintaining a steady speed. He wouldn't encounter any danger in the blood-colored mud pool. Plus, with the source of the sacred land continuously supplying him with energy, he only needed to maintain a trace of consciousness. The remaining 99% was used to refine the supreme blood lotus horn. Refining was extremely difficult. It was much harder than refining the high-grade blood lotus horn. I'm still not strong enough. Lin Feng sighed. If he had the strength of a god-level expert, refining the supreme blood lotus horn would be much easier. But now, it would take at least a few hundred years. However, to be able to improve a great Tao of darkness from the 3rd stage to the 4th stage in a few hundred years was already very heaven-defying. Plus, it didn't require much comprehension. The refinement itself was like the reinforcement of memories, deeply imprinted in one's soul. Originally, the supreme blood lotus horn was already a perfect body, a true pinnacle, true treasure. Lin Feng was very satisfied. Although there were only 4 great Tao of darkness in the 6 golden blood lotus horns, 2 of them contained the same great Tao of darkness. It was already a great harvest. Originally, he had planned to kill a blood lotus beast lord and obtain more high-grade blood lotus horns to improve his 6 paths of darkness. But now there was no need for that. When I return to the Forbidden Black Land, I'll leave the nest as soon as possible. I can't stay here for long. Lin Feng was very clear. The Blood Lotus Beast King had already returned. He must have realized that the supreme Blood Lotus Horn was gone, including the Ball of Darkness. Now, he was probably furious and crazy and was going to sweep through the Blood Centipede's lair. As long as there was a chance, he would run as far as he could. It was too dangerous to stay here. Sweeping through, Lin Feng was right. The Blood Lotus Beast King, Devon, was sweeping through the sacred land, searching inch by inch for the Destiny Ray's companion called Li Feng. His eyes were filled with anger. The damage to his soul made him even crazier. As a master of the Blood Lotus Nest, Devon knew where the entrance to the sacred land was. The Imperial Palace. When he came, he had already discovered that the passage to the Imperial Palace was open. He had also returned to the Imperial Palace and learned from the other Blood Lotus Beast Lords that the Destiny Race expert he had killed had entered from the Imperial Palace. But after that, no one had left the Imperial Palace. That meant that Li Feng was still in the sacred land. I'll dig you out even if you have to dig 3 feet into the ground. The Blood Lotus Beast King, Devon, was furious. He would never allow the 6 supreme blood lotus horns of his ancestor to be lost in his hands. After reaching the level of God, the blood lotus beast's intelligence was not as good as that of humans, but it was still not bad. There were many things that he could clearly judge. He had been sweeping through for 15 years. In the entire sacred land, Devon was completely sure that Li Feng was not among them. How did he escape? Devon gritted his teeth, his eyes cold. It's the Forbidden Black Land. Was a smart guy. He knew how to escape from 2 Forbidden Black Lands. But I'm not stupid either. Guard the 2 Forbidden Black Lands and the entrance to the Blood Lotus Nest. Let's see where you can run to. This time, you won't be able to escape even if you have wings.